Konoha, a hunter in the ninja world. Chapter 1, First arrival in ninja world. Konoha village, Central Street, Hokage's office. Two old men were having a heated discussion with a baby. Sitting behind the wide desk was the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. After many years as the god of the upper class, the third Hokage looked old, but he still had the power of a ninja. His small body was full of aura. He crossed his fingers, buried his chin in the platform built by his crossed hands, and looked at the old man kneeling in front of him calmly. It was this motionless posture that gave people endless pressure. The old man half kneeling in front of the table had grey hair. Even when kneeling, one could see his back slightly hunched. He was carrying a large pot, 2 spoons, and a long knife on his back. It seemed that such equipment had already bent the old man's back. Under the simple shorts and thick vest, there was an equally old face, which looked more kind than the 3 generations. Facing the pressure from the 3 generations, he was trying his best to deny it. Master Sandame, you know that I am single and have no experience in taking care of a baby. Besides, I am a registered ninja and need to complete missions. I am simply unable to take care of a child. Maraboshi Kasuke, with a bitter face, tried his best to express his intention to refuse to adopt the child. Even in the face of the Sandame's active pressure, he clearly opposed it. The third Hokage stared at Kasuke. Such strong pressure did not achieve the result he wanted. He had to change his attitude. The one kneeling in front of him was a loyal subordinate who had followed the Hokage since the second Hokage for decades. He was the most loyal descendant of Konoha village. Even if Danzo betrayed Konoha, he would probably continue to serve Konoha conscientiously. A career of being a genin for decades was a reason and object of ridicule for others. After all, one could become a chunin or even a jonin by accumulating experience. If he was still a genin for decades, it could only mean that this person was completely unteachable and had no talent. He was the last of the last. Only the old people of the 3rd generation know how dedicated Maraboshi Kasuke is. He may not have made outstanding achievements like White Fang Jiraiya, but how can an old ninja who has served Konoha for decades in obscurity be considered a weakling by others? Besides, those who are familiar with Kasuke know that Kasuke has the strength of an elite jonin. Even if he has declined due to his age, his strength is still solid. The reason why he did not upgrade his ninja level is Maraboshi Kasuke's own request. The sacrifice of his teammates tortured this old man who cherished his companions all his life, and he has been atonement for his recklessness all his life. But it was because of this that the 3rd Hokage insisted that Maraboshi Kasuke accept the baby. It was not just because the baby was brought back by Maraboshi Kasuke, and he had a connection with the baby. It was also because Maraboshi Kasuke, an old man who had devoted his whole life to Konoha, had the greatest wish to die on the battlefield one day. This was not okay. He had devoted his whole life to Konoha, but was determined to die. How could such a strong will of fire disappear like this? He needed a successor, an heir. Perhaps because of the appearance of this baby, this carefree old man could have some ties. With care, there would be hope for life, and he could also find a home for the old man to grow old. Kasuke, the voice of the 3rd generation had lost its majesty, and was filled with consolation like an elder brother. I know what you are thinking, but I cannot agree with it, because you are Maraboshi Kasuke, and you have been serving Konoha since the 2nd generation era, through the 2nd generation, the 3rd generation, the 4th generation, and then back to the 3rd generation. For such a long time, you have spent your entire life serving Konoha. I can't just watch you running around all your life, and finally die on some unknown battlefield. You are Konoha's living hero, the successor and promoter of the will of fire. You need a successor. You have been working for Konoha all your life, and you don't even have a family. Now God has sent him to you, he is your family, your successor, and even God has agreed. Do you still want to refuse? The 3rd generation spoke earnestly, and he really couldn't say anything harsh to this person. But Kasuke understood what Sandai meant, and was grateful for Sandai's consideration for him. However, he had been alone through decades of life and death. He had expected a family, but in the end he decided to be alone because he knew that he was not suitable for having a family. If a ninja has no possessions, an uncertain home, and an unpredictable life, and is destined to bring pain to those close to him, then it is better not to disturb him. The words of objection were stuck in his chest, and before he could utter them, he was interrupted by Sandai, who stood up. He took a deep puff from the pipe, and the aroma of tobacco mixed with the turbid smoke brought some spiritual stimulation to Sandai. It made Sandai more obsessed with the pipe, but it was also a manifestation of his increasingly weak energy over the years. Unconsciously, he had to admit that he was old. Guji, you are old, and so am I. I hope that when I retire, I can still find people of my generation who I can talk to. Please don't reject my kindness. You can find countless inappropriate reasons, but there is one that you cannot reject. This is a life that survived because of you. This is an opportunity given to you by God, and it is also a reward given by the village for your years of dedication. This is a kindness. When kindness meets kindness, it is the most perfect encounter in the world. On the contrary, when this kindness meets malice, it is the greatest mockery of kindness. The third generation slowly walked to the window and watched the people coming and going on the street. The lively scene always made people feel peaceful and cheerful. We old guys have to leave something for our younger generations to see, right? An orderly inheritance is the foundation for Konoha's eternal prosperity. Do you understand? The third generation has already begun to make big accusations. It seems that Kasuke's rejection of the baby is the end of Konoha's inheritance. Guji was silent. He knew the good intentions of Sandai. He had no reason to refuse since the matter had come to this. If he refused further, it would hurt their relationship. After all, they were considering him, but he refused again and again, which was a bit ungrateful. On the desk, the baby was already fast asleep, sleeping peacefully and quietly. On the baby's soft and chewy face, the baby's little mouth smacked its lips from time to time. Was it eating something delicious in its dream? Guji's dusty heart seemed to open up as well. Okay, I agree to adopt this baby. From today on, he is my grandson. Guji has never been a fussy person. He believes that those who hesitate are not qualified ninjas. Even if he is just a genin, Guji will make the necessary decisions without hesitation. That's good, as expected. When kindness is treated with kindness, it is the most beautiful encounter in the world. Here, this is your adoption certificate. Fill it out and give it to me tomorrow. Oh, by the way, your grandson doesn't have a name yet, do you need me to give him one? The third generation finally got the answer he wanted, and his mood instantly became cheerful. He even wanted to seize the right to name the baby. Haha, don't worry about that, third Sama. I will think carefully about what name to give him. I guarantee it will be nice and have a profound meaning. After saying that, he picked up the baby and ran away. He finally had a grandson, but this Hokage actually wanted to take advantage of him, even if it was just for the right to name him. This is my grandson, and I am the only one who can name him. Maraboshi Kasuke wondered what name he should give him. Chapter 2. Maruhoshi Kazama. A grey rabbit raised its head vigilantly and looked around. After finding nothing unusual, it lowered its head and bit off a grass stem leaf, chewing it like noodles and sucking it into its mouth. It held its head high and kept observing its surroundings. With a piercing sound, the rabbit instinctively lowered its head. An arrow shot from nowhere pierced through the rabbit's body and nailed it to the ground. The rabbit struggled weakly for a few times and then kicked off to the underworld. 10 meters away, the lush canopy of a big tree covered the boy's whole body, leaving only his 2 eyes exposed. Seeing that the rabbit had been killed, he jumped lightly from the treetop and went forward to check on the rabbit. Oops, it was a little off. I was in a hurry. I should have aimed carefully before shooting. I made 2 holes in a good rabbit skin. It seems I have to shoot another one. The young man slapped his knee, annoyed that he did not seize the opportunity. After saying that, he took out the arrow, picked up the bloody rabbit, and put it on his shoulder, not disdaining the bloody smell and uncleanness at all. He was as calm as an old hunter. The boy walked to a relatively sparse open space in the woods and looked up at the sky. The sun was already very high in the sky. It was getting late and it was time to go to school. Outside of Konoha village, forests can be seen everywhere, and it seems that Konoha has no intention of using such a large area of forest resources. It just sits idle. Only barbed wire and training grounds have been built between the village and the forest to prevent wild beasts from attacking. The young man walked casually on the road. It was obviously a complicated forest path, or even no road at all, but he walked very casually, as if it was a back garden. Until they came to a huge tree, a tree that is hard to see in modern society. It is almost more than 10 stories high, and the trunk is so thick that it may not be hugged by more than a dozen people. There are obvious traces of human activities around such a big tree. The boy turned a corner and saw a wooden ladder behind the tree. The ladder was as thick as an arm and could just reach the treetop. The boy climbed up quickly with his slender and strong body. The boy opened a door hidden by branches and walked in. This was not just a big tree, but a tree house. The huge tree tops with lush branches and leaves perfectly hide the tree house. If the boy hadn't exposed it himself, few people would have noticed the existence of the tree house. Soon, the boy changed out of his hunter's gear. The bow and arrow, knife and prey were all placed in the tree house. He changed into short clothes and came out. He hit the tree a few times and landed safely on the ground. The boy followed the crowd into the village, crossed the busy central street, and arrived at the ninja school. Kazama, hurry up, we're going to be late. Another boy grunted as he ran past the other boy, reminding him while running. I know. It's almost here. No rush. Sure enough, as the boy walked into the classroom, the bell rang on time. The day's classes at the ninja school officially began. The boy's name is Kazama, his full name is Maraboshi Kazama, he was adopted by Maraboshi Kasuke a few years ago. 6 years have passed, Kazama has grown into a boy and entered the ninja school. Kazama, you entered the classroom just as the bell rang again. How did you do it? Can you teach me? Kazama was very familiar with the source of the flattering voice. It was the person who ran into the classroom in the morning and reminded Kazama to speed up. Are you sure you want to learn? You can still be sure not to be late even if you rush. If you really want to be as punctual as me, are you sure you can catch up? Fengji unrolled his eyes. This classmate remembered one thing after another. In his 2 lives, he had studied for nearly 20 years in total. How could you easily learn the habit of being punctual? That's right, in his previous life, Zifeng opened and closed his eyes, and his life passed at the age of 30. Who knows which god showed up, and Zifeng opened his eyes and came to this sad world that he had dreamed of in his previous life, but hated after he came here. Naruto accompanied Zifeng throughout his entire growing up life. Although it was a Japanese anime and could not be shown on TV, after entering college, he relied on his notebook to watch it over and over again. It is said that if Kazama is familiar with the plot, he should not be so sad and angry. But the fact is so infuriating. Many novels have pointed out that time travel requires cheat codes, but when it comes to Kazama, I'm sorry, I don't have them. Time travel comes with talent cheats, I'm sorry, I don't have them either. It is said that parents offer sacrifices to the gods and have boundless magic power. Kazama's parents are ominous, his family is unknown, and his birthplace is unknown. He is such a lonely person, but Kazama didn't get any benefits. The only consolation is that as an orphan, he did not die in the wild, and he has a grandfather who adopted him, Maraboshi Kasuke. As for the plot, fuck it. Knowing the plot, what can we do? Should we change it or not? If we change it, the plot will change, which means we will lose our foresight. If we don't change the plot, what's the difference between us and the majority of Naruto viewers, who just want to experience this sadness in person? After sorting out the situation he was in, Fengjian complained about it 800 times a day, but the reality didn't change at all, and he could only accept it helplessly. He ate, drank, defecated, and urinated like other children, and grew up little by little. When Zifeng went to the ninja school, Maraboshi Kasuke's career as a child caregiver ended and he continued his ninja career. Most of the time, Kazama was alone again. In the eyes of others, Kazama is a taciturn person. In school, his theoretical grades are above average, but his practical grades are below average. He is a person who has some talent as a ninja but cannot make it big. He is like Irika, a talent who cannot stand out among the students. He is too inconspicuous. Is Zifeng hiding his talent? It is undeniable that Zifeng has such an idea, but unfortunately, it is not Zifeng's turn to hide his talent. He has already been suppressed by a group of animals. It must be admitted that in school, there are always a group of animals who wantonly show their talents. They can do what the teacher teaches, and they can also do what the teacher does not teach. They can also suppress others one by one and achieve the reputation of genius. In the Konoha ninja village, there are always several geniuses in every class. Konoha is not called the cradle of geniuses for nothing. With these few beasts occupying the title of genius, little Kurami Kazama had to give up his plan of hiding his talent which had already died in the womb before he could even make a move. It is said that the world of Naruto is a world of war, and it is true. Even in the relatively peaceful Konoha and the comfortable ninja school, every student is like a wolf cub, full of hostility. The practical classes are all real fights, and every one of them is full of energy. To be selected to enter the ninja school, the physique is definitely at the level of a wolf cub. This made Feng Jian suffer. His soul was still living in the peaceful era and had not yet made the transition, while his body had already come to this world of power. The real-life combat classes became something Feng Jian avoided for a while. In peacetime, if you have a fight, go to the teacher or the police. If you have a quarrel, go to the teacher or the police. If you are beaten unilaterally, go to the teacher or the police. In a small ninja school, if you lose a fight, you have to fight back. If you lose an argument, you have to fight back. If you are beaten unilaterally, you have to find a chance to fight back. Otherwise, you will become the object of contempt and bullying. Don't say that children have no malice. On the contrary, the malice of children is the real naked malice. So, after being beaten again, Feng Jian gritted his teeth and spent 3 days in the hospital. He sent a classmate who bullied him home with a bloody head and crying to his mother, and finally got back his face. Feng Jian finally broke the vicious circle of being bullied. Now others would say that he was weak in actual combat, but no one would deliberately provoke him. Because if they were provoked too much, Feng Jian's ferocity would be too much for them to bear. At the same time, because of Feng Jian's fierceness, others subconsciously stay away from him. Feng Jian has basically no friends in school. Feng Jian doesn't care. He prefers to be with the knowledgeable Grandpa Maraboshi, where he can chat without any scruples. He also likes to carry a bow and arrow and hunt some small prey. If he likes it, he eats it himself, and if he doesn't like it, he sends it to the Konoha orphanage. The children here are pretty well behaved, at least they are very well behaved to this little brother who occasionally brings them things, and they keep calling him sweet brother. 6 years was enough to familiarize himself with this world. Now, Kazama accepted the fact of time travel and his own ordinariness. If you ask him again, he can say calmly, I am a student of the ninja school in Konoha village, Maraboshi Kazama. Chapter 3 Kai Bataro. Yesterday's hunting only yielded a less than perfect rabbit skin, and the rabbit meat was already eaten tonight. I have to go and see if I can hunt another one today, and this time I must get a complete rabbit skin. Seeing that it was already autumn and winter was not far away, Feng Jian wanted to make a rabbit fur hat for Maraboshi Kasuk to prove that he had the ability and could ask for something from his grandfather, such as ninjutsu, swordsmanship, etc. Whether Kazama is willing or not, the world of Naruto is a world where power is paramount. If you want to survive, or even live well, power is an unavoidable topic. This year is Kazama's first year in school, and the main focus is on ninja common sense and basic knowledge. The legendary chakra refinement that everyone has not yet been taught. Kazama seriously suspects that the few fierce animals in the class must have been taught chakra by their family, otherwise it would be impossible to explain why they can have such fighting power at the age of 6. In order to avoid falling behind, Feng Jian plans to ask his grandfather for some extra help. Otherwise, it will be even harder to get through the ninja school next year. Taking a step forward, Feng Jian looked forward, but his ears inadvertently caught a small noise. It seemed to come from the big tree beside him. Seeing the big tree beside him, Zai Feng immediately broke out in a cold sweat. What was it that he hadn't noticed, but only showed up when he was close to the trunk of the tree? It was obvious that it was treating him as prey. Although Feng Jian is only 6 years old, his body is not that big. Compared with humans and animals in the forest, Feng Jian is considered big. How animals judge whether each other is prey or not, the body size is very important. The bigger the body, the stronger the fighting power and hunting ability. Only in this way can they support a strong body and avoid starvation. The only animals that could treat the west wind as prey were large carnivores such as bears, wild boars, tigers, leopards, and pythons. Among these animals, only leopards and pythons could climb trees, and the one that could get so close to me without making a sound was obvious, it was the python in the forest. Now Feng Jian was no longer sweating, but trembling with fear. Of all animals, he was most afraid of cold-blooded reptiles like snakes. Every time he saw one, he felt eerie and terrifying, his hair stood on end, and he even had nightmares in the middle of the night. He couldn't move, and he didn't dare to move, but he couldn't stop moving. Feng Jian who didn't move had only one chance, and this chance depended on Feng Jian's own grasp. If he dodged too late, Feng Jian would definitely die. If he dodged too early, Lin Mang would have time to react, and Feng Jian couldn't guarantee that he could dodge a second time. Taking slow, deep breaths and trying to calm himself down, Feng Jian now had to use all the methods he could think of to fight for a chance to survive. 1,2,3 Feng Jian counted down as he slowly stood up. While his head was still, his eyes were scanning around, hoping to find a chance to escape. After landing in the shape of 3, Zai Feng kicked the big tree beside him fiercely. With the help of the reaction force, his body was ejected to one side. At the moment of landing, his body leaned forward, and a forward roll resolved the force of landing, and he increased the distance again. After the forward roll, his body was in a half-squatting position again. The next moment, he ran forward desperately without any hesitation. Feng Jian felt that he had already run the fastest record in his career. There was only the whistling sound of the wind in his ears. He did not even bother to look back until his physical strength ran out, his legs were weak, his body was exhausted, and his spirit was weakened. Even if Feng Jian was thrown into the mouth of a python, he would not have the strength to resist. Since he couldn't run anymore, Zai Feng wanted to look back to see what kind of python it was that actually hunted humans. In Zai Feng's mind, the only information about pythons eating people was Orochimaru's summoning beast, the snake. He moved his body with difficulty and turned around to look. The cruel scene that was enough to make Feng Jian's mind collapse did not appear. Because Zai Feng, who turned around, saw nothing. Nothing? What's going on? Did the python give up on hunting me? Feng Jian was confused. And there were no signs of large creatures crawling on the path they came from. A python that can hunt humans must be quite large, and it would definitely leave traces wherever it crawls, and it is so fast. But the actual situation is that there are no traces. From far to near, wherever Feng Jian's eyes can see, there are no traces. This situation was strange. Either the python had given up the hunt when Kazama wasn't paying attention, or the python was summoned by humans and was now taken back. The first person Kazama thought of was Orochimaru. Surviving the disaster did not make Kazama feel relieved, but more confused. If it was the former speculation, it would be fine. If it was the latter, Kazama felt that his time in the Naruto world was over. He was targeted by Orochimaru, and the only one who could survive to the end was Kabuto Yakushi. "What are you doing here?" A familiar, old, and gentle voice came, and Zai Feng turned around happily. "Grandpa, you're back." Feng Jian felt relieved. With Grandpa Maraboshi present, he could kill any python no matter how big it was. "You're back. What are you doing? Are you training? You look so tired." Maraboshi Kasuke is an experienced man and he could tell at a glance that Kazama was exhausted. "No, I was being chased by a python." Feng Jian finally made it clear after talking for a while. Maru Xing frowned when he heard this. This forest is adjacent to the village and the trees are relatively sparse. There are small animals in the forest and almost no large carnivores. This is why he chose to settle here. With Feng Jian around, he has to pay attention to safety issues. Could he have come from somewhere else? He didn't doubt that Feng Jian was lying. It seemed that the boy had misophobia in this regard. No matter how embarrassing the matter was, he had never hidden it from him. And judging from Feng Jian's actions, he would be in his current state only if he was being chased by something. Things seem to be getting serious. If large carnivores really appear in this forest, then this forest can no longer be lived in. Are you sure it's a python? What kind of large animal can attack people in a tree? Feng Jian asked back. It is indeed the python that is most likely. Stay here, I'll go check it out. I also need to go. Can you still run? Grandpa, take me there. Okay. Maraboshi Kasuke smiled kindly at Kazama's almost coquettish request, squatted down, and carried the exhausted Kazama on his back. Kazama pointed the way from behind. This direction. Are you sure the python attacked you here? Maraboshi Kasuke asked again. Based on his experience, judging the size of creatures by their traces of activity is almost an instinctive ability. His experience tells him that there are no pythons here, not even large animals. Of course, he doesn't believe that Feng Jian would lie to him, which is strange. It's true. Although I didn't see the real appearance of the python, I heard the sound coming from this tree, and there was also a fishy smell unique to pythons. When he said this, Feng Jian suddenly found that there was something like a silk thread hanging on the treetop, swaying in the wind. Snake. Feng Jian's throat instantly turned into a tweeter. Maraboshi Kasuke flashed in front of the mountain, protected Feng Jian behind him, then looked towards the treetops. Where was the snake? What was that? Maraboshi Kosuk jumped directly onto the treetop in an instant and took the snake down. Chapter 4. After Feng Jian saw the item clearly, he felt bad instantly. Damn it, it was actually snake skin, or the fucking python skin. Who the hell put the python skin here to scare people? Come out, I will beat you to death. Is this the python you were talking about? Ha ha ha, my grandson is actually a coward, ha ha ha, he was scared by the snake skin. Ha ha ha. Maraboshi Kosuk laughed out loud. Ever since Kazama grew up and understood more, Maraboshi Kosuk has lost a lot of fun. Now, Feng Jian has one more embarrassing thing to do. Ah, the collapsed Feng Jian punched and kicked the tree. It was so embarrassing. He scared himself and took it seriously. Feng Jian didn't dare to admit that he was blind and saw it wrong, so he could only be furious. He stepped on the snakeskin, and then Feng Jian felt the snakeskin under his feet move, and then the snakeskin became plump, like a balloon, and turned into a snake, and he was stepping on the python. Snake! Feng Jian's already broken mind was lost again in an instant. Suddenly, a pair of big hands came to his shoulders. The strong hands and a hint of coolness that flowed into his body made Feng Jian wake up instantly. That's right, with Grandpa here, there's nothing to be afraid of snakes. Feng Jian's shaky courage returned and he looked at the snakeskin under his feet. It's not a python at all. This is just a python skin. What happened to me just now? Grandpa, it was clearly a python skin just now. I don't know how it turned into a python, so. Feng Jian explained immediately. He really didn't lie on purpose. I know, Maraboshi Kosuk's face was gloomy. Who did this prank? When Kazama was stepping on the python skin, Maraboshi Kosuk sensed the aura of illusion nearby. In other words, Kazama mistook the python skin for a python, which was the result of someone using illusion. What kind of hatred or grudge was there that they actually used illusion on a child? However, the other party did not seem to have much ill intention. This illusion was obviously not strong. It could only make people hallucinate and scare them. It was completely useless against ninjas. That is to say, Kazama is still a child, and his body does not produce much chakra, so he was hit. But this prank is too much, and the joke is out of proportion. Children cannot be frightened too much, which can easily cause psychological trauma. Maraboshi Kosuk was on full alert. He wanted to find out the culprit who bullied his grandson in front of him and treated him as if he were a dead man. Today, he must teach this nasty guy a lesson. Found it! Maraboshi Kosuk was on full alert. Even though he was not a perception ninja, with the strength of a senior ninja, he quickly discovered the clue based on his experience. Feng Jian swung the kunao in his hand, and a black shadow flashed before his eyes. At the same time, a sound of a sharp blade piercing into the tree came from the tree behind him. You have been discovered, why don't you come out? Maraboshi Kosuk said. He could feel the slight chakra reaction where the kunao was, especially when the kunao was nailed to the tree, the chakra fluctuations at that moment were extremely active. Since you won't come out, I'll have to help you. After saying that, Maraboshi Kosuk drew his long sword and stabbed it into the tree trunk, exactly where the kunao was. After 2 attacks, the bark in this place has broken, revealing a hole as big as a bowl. In the middle where the long knife pierced, a shivering squirrel was having the long knife placed on its neck. It was now rolling its eyes, and its short legs were wet, as if it had peed its pants out of fear. For a moment, Maraboshi Kosuk and Kazama looked at each other. Ha ha ha, Maraboshi Kosuk touched the back of his head and laughed awkwardly. Ha ha ha, even a strong man like Grandpa Maraboshi Kosuk can make mistakes sometimes, and Feng Jian couldn't help laughing. I can choose not to talk about this, but Grandpa won't let me tell you that I was scared. Deal. The grandfather and grandson reached a deal. At night, outside the Konoha village, in the tree house, the bonfire illuminates the scene, and the scene looks quite warm. In his many years of genin career, many times, when there were chunin or jonin in the team, genin Guji would serve as a cook and do odd jobs. This made Guji's cooking skills very good. In Guji's own words, he has been doing these things all the time and is almost an expert. It's just that usually there's only a warm scene of the grandfather and grandson, but today a third member has joined. Hey, don't be so stingy. Although I destroyed your nest, you were the one who scared me first. Besides, your nest is so small, how about I build a big one for you? You know, we humans are very good at building houses. Feng Jian started to fool around. The little guy sat on a crossbeam as thick as his arm, dejected, as if the sky had fallen, and only the part of his house had collapsed. How about this? I'll help you find all the nuts you collected tomorrow. Squeak finally showed some reaction. Don't worry, I won't steal them, and I can find new nuts for you. Squeak. I'm not lying to you. The forest you live in is so small. The forests I've been to are much bigger than yours. The nuts on the other side of the mountain are fuller and sweeter. Feng Jian was like a human trafficker who kidnapped children and kept deceiving people. Gu Ji watched with a smile, neither supporting nor stopping. After all, it was just a squirrel. Even if it had chakra and a little talent for illusion, its upper limit was there. Even if this squirrel was trained, it would be good if it could reach the level of Genin, and the highest level would be Chunin. If it could be subdued, it would be subdued. If it couldn't be subdued, it wouldn't be a big loss. For Kazama, this is a pet that comes to his doorstep, and it has natural talent. Who says that you can't play with pets in the ninja world? What is the summoning technique of the three ninjas? If you can't play with toads and snakes, you can play with squirrels. How about naming you Kaibataro? Look at your big teeth, they are so powerful that they can crack open such hard nuts. Squeak. Is that so, Kaibataro? So you're saying that your teeth are the best and no one else's can compare to them. He was fooling around as much as he could. Even if a squirrel has chakra and some intelligence, how much wisdom can it have to understand the sinister calculations of humans? How can it withstand the deception of Feng Jian, a soul in his 30s? Now it is lost. I think Feng Jian is the one who understands him the most. If he is not a squirrel and Feng Jian is a human, they should share the nuts in the tree hole. Kazama's deliberate approach and Squirrel's innocence, what a good pair. When they woke up the next day, they were as close as old friends. Squirrel stood on Kazama's shoulder, pointed to the depths of the forest and was about to set off. Kazama also readily agreed. What he promised yesterday must be fulfilled today. You can fool people, but you can't lie to them. There must be a bottom line. Especially since Kaibataro will be a partner in life and death in the future, he can't live up to this trust. Just nuts, bring a basket and bring them back to Kaibataro. Kaibataro has already prepared to settle down in the tree house, which is big enough to store more nuts. After arriving, Feng Jian regretted it. He only knew that squirrels would store a lot of nuts for the winter, but no one had ever said that a cat-sized squirrel could hide so much. Looking at the piles of nuts on the ground, which must weigh several hundred kilograms, Feng Jian wanted to cry but had no tears. Chapter 5. Wolves. If a group of hungry refugees saw the pile of nuts, they would jump for joy. Unfortunately, Feng Jian was not a refugee, but a ninja. He had promised Kaibataro to move these nuts back. Since he had promised, he could not break his promise. He thought that he could not finish the task by himself in a day. In this case, he would find some helpers, free of charge. I have been running around in the woods with Kosuk since I was a child, and I have treated the forest as my home. In addition to learning some survival skills in the wild, the biggest gain is that I have made a few friends. It was once said that Kazama didn't have many friends in the ninja school, because they were a group of young and aggressive kids, and Kazama didn't like to get along with them. But it doesn't mean that Kazama didn't have any friends. On the contrary, the forests surrounding Konoha village were his biggest playground. Hunting, playing, living, everything here was very familiar to him. Of course, a lot of wild animals have also been rescued. The soul of modern society always has an inclusive attitude towards these wild animals and does not mind lending a helping hand when it is within its ability. When the forest is large enough and there are enough wild animals, there will be more opportunities to lend a hand. For example, this time, Feng Jian was looking for a tribe. This was the first beast-level beast that Feng Jian had helped. He climbed to the top of the tree in a few steps, took a deep breath, and a deep and desolate wolf howl came out of Feng Jian's mouth, drifting with the wind and spreading far away. This was the way Feng Jian and the wolf pack agreed to meet. This wolf pack is not big. It was the result of Feng Jian rescuing a lone wolf that was driven out of the pack after failing to compete for the wolf kingship. In addition, there are several abandoned wild wolf pups that were rescued and raised by Feng Jian and then released into the wild. It is impossible for a lone wolf to reintegrate into the wolf pack. These abandoned cubs also need an experienced teacher to teach them how to survive. With Feng Jian's unsparing efforts, the lone wolf accepted several half-grown wolf cubs and lived in the forest not far from the tree house. There are few large beasts in the forest here, which is relatively safe for the wolf pack composed of several cubs. In addition, with Fengjian's occasional feeding, the wolf pack is even more reluctant to leave. Fengjian had an idea, or rather, he had a plan early on. Coming to the ninja world, where fist size is important, one must have his own way of strengthening himself. Fengjian knew that his talent was ordinary. If he didn't have any ideas, the biggest possibility in his life would be to become a supporting role like the gatekeeper duo of Konoha. Of course, there's nothing wrong with guarding the gate, it would save him from taking many detours. If Zai Feng was just an ordinary time traveler who didn't know the plot, he might just lie there. But Fengjian, who is familiar with the plot, can't just watch the crisis approaching step by step and do nothing. In the future, whether it is to protect yourself or to join the protagonist group, you need strength. The stronger you are, the more paths you can choose. After rescuing the wolf cub, Fengjian had an idea. Since his talent was limited, why not find more helpers? If people were unreliable, then find helpers from other races. The ninja world was a magical place. Summoning beasts and ninja beasts were clearly available to everyone, but few people, except the three ninjas, really used this method as a trump card. Well, Fengjian thinks this method is the most suitable for him. If he doesn't have enough ability, then his friends will help him. There was no way that the summoned beasts of the three ninjas could be sent to the three holy lands in the short term. Thinking about something more practical, Fengjian was still very interested. This group of wolves was Zai Feng's attempt. Now they are just ordinary wild wolves, barely able to survive in the forest. Fengjian is waiting for an awakened chakra genius to be born in his tribe. That will be the first choice of Zephyr summoning beast. It's okay if it doesn't awaken. It's just a random chess piece. If it succeeds, it's good. If it doesn't, don't be discouraged. The ninja world is so big, there are many creatures with chakra, there is no reason to hang on a tree. When Fengjian has money, the tribes of the three holy places can't buy it, and there are plenty of ordinary summoned beasts. Awoohoo! Suddenly, a wolf howled in the forest not far away, startling a large number of birds. Kaibataro on his shoulder also had his hair standing up, and he quickly climbed up the tree, hiding behind the treetops from a distance to observe the situation. Squeak, squeak. Kaibataro messaged Kazama with his hands dancing, signaling him to leave quickly. Don't worry, I asked them to help, they won't be in danger. Fengjian hurriedly comforted him. The wolves were familiar with Fengjian, so of course they wouldn't hurt Fengjian. But Kaibataro had only known them for one night, so the trust between the two sides needed time to be verified. He couldn't be scared of Kaibataro. If you're worried, just stay on the tree. Run away when you feel any danger. He didn't force Kaibataro to come down. For a small animal like him, running away is his instinct when encountering danger. He couldn't be too demanding. Soon, with several wolf howls getting closer and closer, a total of 6 wolves, 2 big and 4 small, appeared in front of Fengjian. The leader wolf was the lone wolf that failed in the fight for the Wolf King. Even now, the wounds on his body can still be seen. It is conceivable how serious the wounds were at that time. Fortunately, Fengjian cured him. Now he is the king of this small wolf pack. One Eye, you came fast enough. One Eye is the name of lone wolf. Because of the wound on his cheek, which hurt his eyelid and caused bleeding, Fengjian thought that One Eye would become a one-eyed wolf, so he gave him this name. However, after the wound healed, his eyes were able to open, and he was no longer a one-eyed wolf. The name One Eye was indeed determined because of this. They howled at Fengjian a few times, which was considered a greeting. As for the little wolves behind him, they were not so polite. Like happy puppies, they jumped directly at Fengjian. Fengjian was besieged by the 4 little wolves and fell to the ground. To the 4 little wolves, Fengjian was their relative, and it was not too much to get close to him. Fengjian started to communicate with the one-eyed wolf. Even though this guy was driven out of the wolf pack and saved by Fengjian, he still had wildness in him. Fengjian couldn't forcefully ask the one-eyed wolf for help, so he had to discuss it. The man and the wolf squatted face to face and began a conversation that outsiders could not understand. Please do me a favor and help me carry these nuts back to the tree house. Ah. Hey, don't be so stingy, I can treat you to meat at most. Whoa, really? Roast chicken, right? No problem. Zai Feng paid the price of 3 chickens and a pile of barbecued meat to ask the wolves for help. With the help of the new force, the speed of nut transportation was greatly improved. In the evening, Grandpa Guja did not participate in the bonfire this time. Grandpa Guja went to perform another mission. No one understood why he, a genin, was busier than a jonin. Here, your roasted chicken. Feng Jian threw the crispy chicken on the outside, bloody on the inside, and without oil or salt to the one-eyed man. He also threw the other half-cooked meat to the other little wolves. It's not that Feng Jian's roasting skills are bad, nor is it that Feng Jian is stingy. When he raised them, Feng Jian couldn't stand the bloody fresh meat, and was afraid that eating cooked meat would cause problems for them, so he could only give them half-cooked meat like this. Who knew they actually liked it? As long as you like it, Kazama doesn't have the habit of sitting around with a group of wolves and eating raw meat. Chapter 6. Cultivation. It is a sunny day today. The ninja school was on holiday yesterday and Grandpa Guja has a rare few days of rest. It is a good opportunity to ask him some advice on training that I have wanted to ask for a long time. Feng Jian took a deep breath and made up his mind, then he asked the old man, "Grandpa, I want to practice." "Okay." The old man's reaction was as normal as hearing a bird singing. His movements while eating breakfast did not change at all, and his emotions did not change at all, as if he had guessed what Feng Jian wanted to say. He thought he would be rejected immediately because it was only theoretically possible to cultivate chakra at the age of 6. Only the children of the ninja clan were exposed to chakra at this age. The other children were still laying the foundation. It would be normal to cultivate chakra next year when their bodies and minds grew further. It's time. The children of the ninja clan have already started learning to condense chakra before entering school. Your body is average, so I delayed it for half a year. Now it's almost time, and I should teach you how to condense chakra. Feng Jian burst into tears. So that's how it is. Grandpa, please explain it clearly. If I exercise more, wouldn't I be able to cultivate chakra a long time ago? I have to be a riddle man. I thought you had other considerations. Sit down and listen to me. Chakra is. Feng Jian, who is familiar with the plot, naturally knows the basic principles of chakra. Being familiar with the principles does not mean that you can condense chakra. Otherwise, why would you wait until now to let the old man teach you? There are so many details involved. If you don't understand a little bit of the details, it may lead to the failure of condensing chakra. First, empty your mind, have no desires or thoughts, focus your attention on your body, and feel your physical and mental energy. The old man finally gave us some solid advice. Once you sense them, you gather them together and mix them. The two distinct forces must blend together and merge into a new energy. This is chakra. Don't ask when the fusion is successful. Your body will tell you when you succeed. The old man spoke at a moderate speed, passing right beside Feng Jian's ears. Feng Jian's thoughts gradually calmed down with the sound, until he finally calmed down. His body seemed to become a transparent human-shaped container, and he could see the energy scattered everywhere in his body. The brain mainly contained spiritual energy, and the body mainly contained physical energy. As for how to make the two energies fit together, the old man said it was to use the mind. What is the mind? Feng Jian's understanding is his own consciousness, thoughts, etc. In short, the body is still, and the mind is constantly commanding the two energies to approach each other. The spiritual energy is okay, although it lags behind a little, but it can still be activated. The physical energy is much more active, almost completely ignoring Feng Jian's thoughts. There was no other way, Feng Jian could only control his spiritual energy and capture the physical energy over and over again. However, the lag of spiritual energy was completely unable to keep up with the lively physical energy, and Feng Jian's repeated mental commands were all in vain. What to do? Not moving your body is already a way to reduce your body's energy activity, so what to do? In the inner vision state, the situation inside the body is clear. Feng Jian doesn't know why he entered the inner vision state, but now is not the time to pursue this. Awakening chakra is the serious matter. Since I can't catch it, I'll just take a break. The previous reckless action has made Feng Jian feel tired in his consciousness and his brain is exhausted. The energy of the body is active, but it still surrounds the body and does not fly out of the body. It cannot be caught up or captured because the spiritual energy lags behind and the timing is difficult to grasp. If you grasp the trajectory of the activity of the body's energy, then command the spiritual energy to wait for it. Well, Feng Jian thought it was possible and worth a try. When in the state of introspection, the body is like a transparent human-shaped glass bottle. The head is spiritual energy, quiet and steady, while the rest of the body is filled with physical energy, in strands and lines, entwined with each other, blending, separating, and merging. Feng Jian was observing and found that no matter where the body energy was, it seemed to have no purpose and just wandered around. In order to figure this out, Feng Jian focused on a trace of body energy and gave up observing other body energies. As he wandered, Feng Jian's consciousness finally caught this trace of body energy. Feng Jian seemed to understand that the mind controlling the body's energy did not actually require the body's energy to be controlled all at once. After all, the body's energy was much larger than the mind. Zai Feng observed this strand of body energy and subconsciously concentrated his mind, which made it relatively easy to control this strand of body energy. Just like playing snake, he directed this strand of body energy to chase other body energies little by little, until he felt that this strand of body energy was a little uncontrollable and became lazy. Feng Jian suddenly remembered that he was not here to play snake, so he quickly directed the body energy to sway and rush to his head. Then he crashed into the spiritual energy. Although the two energies met, they were incompatible at first. Fortunately, the spiritual energy was obedient and quietly wrapped the physical energy. The physical energy was under Feng Jian's control and did not make any big moves. Let them live together like dumplings. How is it? Did you gain anything? Feng Jian felt sore all over, and his head seemed to be a mess after playing games all night. Suddenly he heard the old man calling him. It's okay, there has been some progress, but the chakra is still not synthesized. Feng Jian covered his head and wanted to put a bandage on it. It's good to see progress. We'll continue tomorrow. Take a rest these few days and don't do anything else. Seeing Feng Jian's painful look, Gu Ji smiled slightly. He had gone through this before. After passing this stage, the rest will be a piece of cake. It was Kazama's talent that made him not very optimistic. Anyone who could condense chakra within one day could be considered a genius. But Kazama had obviously failed. This method of awakening chakra could only take 7 days at most. If it still didn't succeed within 7 days, it meant that the person had no talent for chakra. Because awakening chakra actually consumes both physical and mental energy. Our daily production and life also consume mental and physical energy, but this consumption is unconscious and dissipated. It can be restored by resting and eating. The awakening of chakra is done consciously, which is equivalent to forcibly adding another greater consumption to the daily consumption. That is why Feng Jian has headaches and body aches, which are all normal phenomena. 7 days is the most extreme situation. After 7 days, the mental and physical energy consumed will be difficult to replenish through rest and food, and then what is consumed is vitality. Chapter 7. The next day, Feng Jian, who was full of energy, couldn't wait to continue practicing. According to the high consumption the day before, he should be very sluggish today. In fact, this is the secret of the body. Physical energy and mental energy have been in a state of slow dissipation. The body has become accustomed to this state, so nothing happened. Yesterday's sudden consumption caused the body to generate a wrong signal. The body's physical energy and mental energy were rapidly consumed and urgently needed to be replenished. The state that could have been restored was now out of control because of this wrong signal. This is the same as drawing blood. The body loses a small amount of blood, which can stimulate the body's hematopoietic function. Similarly, the consumption of physical energy and mental energy also stimulates the body, and the body will automatically strengthen its recovery ability. With yesterday's experience, Feng Jian entered the state quickly today. He did not rush in recklessly as before, but just like yesterday, he continued to find a trace of physical energy, then focused his mind on it, then controlled him and drove him into the spiritual energy. As for the physical energy that was finally wrapped in spiritual energy yesterday, it has now disappeared into thin air. No one knows where it has gone. Anyway, no trace of it can be found when looking inward. With the solution, Feng Jian was not anxious. He followed the steps and controlled the energy of his body to move around in the spiritual energy. The two were intertwined and impacted each other. You are in me and I am in you. I don't know how long it has been. Feng Jian's spirit is a little dull. Suddenly, his body relaxed, as if he had drunk a large bottle of ice water after high-intensity exercise, and he felt refreshed from head to toe. His head still hurt, and his body was still sore, but this kind of comfort came suddenly. Feng Jian was refreshed all of a sudden. In the interior state, the spiritual energy and physical energy that had been entangled with each other for countless times had already mixed together and appeared in the shape of a blue flame. It was his appearance that made the body acknowledge and accept the consumption of physical and spiritual energy. In other words, from now on, as long as the spiritual energy and physical energy were condensed, chakra would be automatically synthesized. Feng Jian opened his eyes and smiled at the old man. It's done. A smile also appeared on Guji's old face. He was satisfied with Feng Jian's progress. There were not so many geniuses. If he was not a genius, he would not be his grandson. As long as he could become a ninja, he could serve the village. It didn't matter whether he was a genius or not. You should eat first. You have just condensed chakra, and your body is very exhausted. You need to replenish nutrition and rest more. Once your body is fully adapted to this kind of consumption, it will be much easier. From now on, it will be a slow process. Remember to practice condensing chakra every day. It will determine how much chakra you will have in the future. It is very important. Clear. After eating the delicious wild fish stewed for who knows how long, the old man's unique skills are really not to be underestimated. Although he was very excited, Feng Jian decided to take a nap first. Time flies, and half a year has passed. Feng Jian's chakra practice has never stopped. Many students in the ninja school have awakened their chakras one after another. Now there are more courses like physical skills, shuriken techniques, basic knowledge, traps, disguises, which are half theoretical and half practical. Sure enough, only after awakening chakra, the courses after that are the dry goods of ninja. Zai Feng has experienced the baptism of the big information age, and it is not difficult for him to understand these courses. But he encountered a roadblock in learning ninjutsu. The stumbling block is Mariboshi Kasuke, who is unwilling to teach Kazama ninjutsu, saying that Kazama is too young and needs to practice the basics rather than aiming too high. That's right, Feng Jian was unable to refute and could only accept it in the end. However, accepting it does not mean that Kazama will give up his research on ninjutsu. He is familiar with the original work, and the training techniques of wind escape are explained very clearly in the plot. Although there is no shadow clone to help Kazama, Kazama does not want to wait any longer and will experiment now. The first step in practicing wind escape techniques is to cut leaves. Concentrate chakra in the palm of your hand, imagine it to be sharper and thinner, and then cut the leaves instantly. Leaves are everywhere in the forest. Just imagine that the chakra is sharper and thinner. What does this mean? Imagine that you can generate wind attributes. It's metaphysics. According to the description in the original work, the so-called wind escape has the characteristic of a sharp wind blade like a knife. At least most wind escapes have this effect. Feng Jian tried it and found that the leaves were as steady as an old dog and as strong as iron under the chakra cutting, and there was no sign of damage. It was obvious that Feng Jian did not understand the essence of wind attribute chakra. He tried it several times and it was still the same. Feng Jian had another problem. Even if the consumption was small, Feng Jian was just a ninja school student. How much chakra could he have? In other words, Kazama's chakra cannot support the consumption caused by Kazama's large number of experiments. It turns out that reckless behavior is useless. This is Kazama's first thought. It turns out that he was influenced by Naruto's reckless thinking in the original work. We must figure out the key point. The steps of practicing the nature change of wind attribute must be correct. Then the one who is wrong must be Feng Jian, the person who is doing it. The key point is the important one. This is the true teaching in one sentence, and the false teaching in 10,000 books. Condensing chakra into the palm is not difficult. If you don't pursue speed, it can be done easily. The second step is to imagine it is sharper and thinner. Feng Jian stared at the chakra visible on the palm, not understanding what this step means. Imagine, sharper and thinner. How is this like chanting a sutra? Usually, you chant a sutra while praying. Monks chant and pray, attaching them to objects, that is consecration. Could it be that chakra also needs this? Suddenly, Feng Jian slapped his head. Damn, it might really be true. The chakra we initially condense has no attributes. The attributes are all given to chakra by ninjas according to their own understanding. In other words, the ninja must first realize what the wind attribute chakra is like, and then use methods such as prayer and will to engrave this understanding into the chakra over and over again. Don't forget that chakra was originally used for communication between people. In other words, chakra can bear human will. The so-called attributes are actually the repeated replication of the ninja's will during use. Eventually, the chakra mutates, expressing the replicated will and forming the current chakra attributes. Some people may ask, no, since it is artificially reproduced, why are there only 7 attributes, instead of 27, 37, or countless? This is the influence of the human body itself. Chakra is composed of physical attributes and spiritual attributes. We carve our will into spiritual energy, but not into physical energy. Physical energy comes from the body and is affected by the body, and there are only 7 physical attributes. Of course, chakra cannot generate chakra of other attributes out of thin air. In other words, as long as there are attributes in the body, any different understanding of these 7 attributes can actually be developed, but the difficulty is different. For example, fire has burning, explosion, light, heat, etc., which are actually part of the characteristics of fire, but many people only develop some of them. Another example is wind. Is it really only sharp? Not necessarily, but why do we think of sharpness as a knife when talking about wind attributes? It can only mean that this sharp nature is deeply rooted in people's hearts and is easier for people to accept and understand. Chapter 8. Now that we understand the principle of property change, cutting leaves is not the only option. Feng Jian's choice is to practice with the sword. It is also to train cutting ability. Why choose to cut leaves, which has almost no other effect? Leaves are soft, easy to find the feeling of cutting, and are also common and inexpensive. From these two perspectives, there seems to be nothing wrong with choosing leaves. But Kazama is not the soul of the ninja world. If he can achieve several goals with one thing, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or even 3 birds with 1 stone, that would be in line with Kazama's thinking. After thinking about it, let's practice swordsmanship. In the ninja world, swords and knives are inseparable, and there is also a kendo tradition. It is normal that ordinary people cannot get in touch with and learn kendo. It is different for Kazama. Old man Guja is good at swordsmanship, and he can fight against a jonin. He is more than capable of teaching Kazama. The inheritance problem does not exist for Kazama. This is the first point. Secondly, despite the various fancy ninjutsu in the plot, in fact, when it comes to fighting, physical skills still account for a large proportion. Even the strong ones like the 3rd generation and Orochimaru have to rely on stick skills and swordsmanship. So swordsmanship training is very necessary. Otherwise, in close combat, you can only go forward with a kunao. Whether you are proficient in a weapon is too important in battle. The third is wind ninjutsu. Because of its sharp nature, unless you practice it to control it like a finger arm, you still need to use it with a weapon, otherwise you will be easily injured. It is rare to use ninjutsu like Chidori to concentrate your hands in wind ninjutsu. Since you have decided to play wind ninjutsu and are destined to choose a weapon, it is necessary to practice it in advance. The method chosen by Kazama is similar to cutting leaves. With the assistance of Kai Bataro, he is responsible for dropping the leaves that have been prepared long ago from the tree. The leaves are light and thin, and their path changes at any time during the falling process. They will also be affected by the breeze, making the falling path of the leaves even more unpredictable. Then the swordsman Feng Jian, with a thick back and thin blade, a palm-wide and arm-long straight wooden sword, practiced swinging the sword. The purpose of swinging the sword is to hit the falling leaves. If the wooden sword is not sharp enough, even if there is a force to swing, the leaves in the air have nowhere to put force, and it cannot be cut even if it is hit. This requires the blessing of chakra. In other words, every swing of the sword by Feng Jian requires not only speed, strength, and accuracy, but also the coordination of chakra. If one can, in this situation, cut a falling leaf in half with one sword, then one can achieve a small level of success in swordsmanship and wind escape. In addition to sword practice, Kazama also needs to practice archery. In other words, Feng Jian started practicing archery since he could move. At first, he just wanted to have some hunting skills and improve the food. After all, Mr. Guja often went on missions. Once he went on a mission, Feng Jian's food standards plummeted. There is nothing to complain about. Do it yourself and you will have enough food and clothing. Bows and arrows are Feng Jian's choice. There is no more interesting and useful way than standing on a tree and shooting prey down. Of course, traps are also possible, but Kazama, who is only a few years old, does not have the physical strength and ability to set traps that can trap wild beasts. This almost playful choice turned out to be Kazama's best means of attack. As long as he had a bow and arrow in a forest, he would be able to kill every one of those wolf cubs in the ninja school. Unfortunately, this was only a thought. However, it did not prevent Kazama from considering the bow and arrow as his main weapon in the future. The ninja world's understanding of long-range ninjas is, at most, the third generation, a turret-type ninja who knows all kinds of long-range ninjutsu. The third generation is the top one. There is no concept of sniping in the ninja world, which gives Kazama room for control, extension, and imagination. Sniper tactics originated from the ultra-long-range strikes of thermal weapons. Bows and arrows have limited range, so this attack mode seems impossible. But as a modern person, Feng Jian just wants to say, have you seen a sniper crossbow? I have seen a folding bow. With modern technology, bows and crossbows can reach a range of thousands of meters, so sniper tactics are feasible. So if you want to carry out an assassination, just use a long-range sniper. It is quiet, has a long range, and is powerful. It is perfect. The range of the bow and arrow can easily reach the attack distance of most ninjutsu, or even farther. That is to say, once in a head-on confrontation, Kazama with bow and arrow in hand can completely play as an OB. No matter how powerful the ninjutsu is, you can't hit me, and I can threaten you at any time. You know what that feels like? Unless a ninjutsu is cast instantly, it cannot be faster than a bow and arrow. Drawing the bow and shooting an arrow is definitely much faster than casting hand seals. The most important thing is that ninjutsu requires chakra, while bows and arrows only require a little physical strength. As a result, as long as Kazama is not killed instantly, the longer the time drags on, the higher the chances of Kazama winning the duel will be. Use a bow for long-range combat and a knife for close combat. Now all that's missing is a main combat pet. The perfect hunter is about to take shape. No, this is the ninja world, and I'm a bit off the mark. But this idea can be borrowed. As for pets, Kaibataro is okay, but a main combat pet is impossible. This is also the direction that Kazama needs to consider. That group of wild wolves is one of Kazama's hopes. Unfortunately, so far, no signs of chakra awakening have been found. If it doesn't work, he will have to borrow some money from old man Guja to buy one before graduating from the ninja school. Just imagine, in the future, a group of ninjas are still struggling to use various ninjutsu to fight hand-to-hand, or seal ninjutsu duels, while Zai Feng stands far away, shooting them one by one. That scene is too beautiful. Kazama, Kazama, don't sleep anymore, the teacher is here. Kazama was building his own battle system in his dream, and was suddenly awakened by a shaking. He squinted at the source of the sound, and his silly desk mate signaled with his eyes. He followed his gaze and saw the ninja school teacher who was about to explode. Oh, he couldn't sleep anymore. Without waiting for the teacher to take action, Feng Jian took the initiative to walk out of the classroom and stand outside the classroom as punishment. The setting sun was still so dazzling that it made people feel drowsy. But Feng Jian was indeed awake. Often, we quickly forget what we experienced in a dream. However, Feng Jian repeatedly recalled and wrote down the thoughts in his dream. Obviously, that combat mode, which is very different from the ninja attack mode, is very suitable for Kazama. It consumes little energy, which means strong continuous combat capability, and has a long range, which means safety. As for the power, haha, learn about the wind attribute chakra. When Kazama's wind attribute change is completed, every arrow shot will carry the wind attribute chakra. How many people dare to resist it head-on? The route was set, and the next step was training. Bows and arrows were easy to come by. There were many materials in Feng Jian's inventory, all of which were picked up when he wandered around the forest. When he found good ones, he would throw away the inferior ones. The materials he had saved now were almost top-notch. This was Konoha, and such a large forest gave Feng Jian endless material choices. The wooden knife needs to be sharpened beforehand. Just sharpen it. It's the same as cutting leaves or wood. Pet, this needs to be taken care of quickly. Feng Jian wants to ask old man Guji for help. There must be good stuff in the deep forest, but it is also relatively dangerous. Feng Jian naturally does not dare to take risks. Old man Guji is his only helper. Chapter 9. Convincing the old man. Swordsmanship is nothing more than Tangzu, Jiasha Zhan, Ni Jiasha, left pheasant, left cut up, right cut up, against the wind, and stab. These are the basic movements. All other moves are the evolution and extension of these basic moves. So, if you want to practice swordsmanship well, you must be proficient in the basic swordsmanship, so proficient that it is almost instinctive. Only in this way can you react instantly at the moment of fighting. The white-haired old man Guji, with his hands behind his back, educated Feng Jian, who was swinging the sword in front of him. He found that after only a few days of not seeing him, Feng Jian actually started practicing swordsmanship. There was nothing wrong with practicing swordsmanship, and he could give some pointers, but it was obvious that Feng Jian's swordsmanship moves, in his opinion, were completely blind practice, and did not look like swordsmanship at all. So there was a scene where old man Guji gave Feng Jian pointers. Feng Jian was also troubled. He didn't swing his sword randomly. He was a member of the martial arts club in college. He was proficient in the basic 13-style sword technique. Even if modern martial arts have lost the test of actual combat, the basic techniques have not changed. If there is no way to explain it, then I won't explain it. Fearing that Feng Jian would go astray, Guji did not carry out any missions these days and kept watching Feng Jian's practice. The old man still approved of the practice of swinging a knife to cut leaves, but the moves were completely random. The old man was determined to correct Feng Jian's random swinging of the knife. Every morning there are 3 hours, 1 hour for sword practice and 2 hours for hunting. Hunting is actually bow and arrow practice. It is not difficult for Feng Jian to shoot at fixed targets. Moving prey is a good way to practice archery. Grandpa, I want to find a summoned beast. After hesitating for a long time, Feng Jian decided to ask for help from Grandpa Guja. After all, summoned beasts will participate in battles in the future, so they have to be selective and can't just accept whatever they encounter. Should they choose insects when they encounter them? Why do you suddenly want a spirit beast? Don't you think summoned beasts are a good supplement to combat power? They have their own wisdom and consciousness, and can communicate with people. Several summoned beasts combined together, even if they are only at the genin level, can have the combat power of a team. And with the command of a ninja, they can exert greater combat power. Feng Jian also found it very strange. The combat power of summoned beasts is obvious to all, but ninjas do not seem to actively pursue summoned beasts. Instead, they focus more on ninjutsu. You think so? Guji was a little surprised. Ninjas pursue powerful strength, but this kind of strength is often sought from oneself, or in other words, the pursuit of strong strength, rather than the pursuit of external things such as summoned beasts. Ninjas' views on summoned beasts are that if they have them, they can, and if they don't, they are not rare. Of course, if the summoned beasts are as powerful as the summoned beasts of the 3 holy places of the Sunan, there are still many people coveting them. Is there anything wrong? Feng Jian continued to ask. He liked to communicate with the old man. The experienced old man always had many different ideas from Feng Jian. The two of them had different ideas, but neither of them required the other to follow their own ideas. This was the reason why the two of them had always been in harmony. The old man told her from his many years of ninja experience that ninjas cannot be obsessed with certain habits, including thoughts. He was very happy to see Kazama having his own thoughts. As the soul of a modern man, it is normal for Kazama to think differently from the ninja world. Completely different ideas collided during their communication. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just that ordinary summoned beasts have limited abilities and will not be of much help in combat. This is Guji's experience. He has encountered many summoned beasts, and most of them were of little use. To him, it was just a matter of 1 or a few cuts. I think it depends on how they are used. Ninjas are so good at fighting. Summoned beasts are just beasts after all. Chakra is just auxiliary for them, and they still can't escape the beast's attack methods. Ninjas are much more flexible. They can use various offensive ninjutsu. It's normal that summoned beasts can't beat them in a head-on confrontation. But why do we have to have a head-on confrontation? When did a ninja's battle require a head-on confrontation? Isn't it enough to just kill the enemy? How can we defeat the enemy if we don't face them head-on? This, Feng Jian felt that he was a little bit unreasonable but couldn't explain it clearly. After pondering for a long time, he sorted out his thoughts on building a combat system. Feng Jian spoke again, I think the auxiliary role of summoned beasts in combat is very important. This is the result Feng Jian came to after reorganizing his thoughts. Indeed, it is not advisable to use summoned beasts as the main combat force. After all, this is a ninja world. If the summoned beasts are placed in an auxiliary position, then this problem will be much simpler. Many ninjas use summoned beasts to assist in battle. What's the difference here? Gu Ji was so experienced and knowledgeable that he once again blocked Feng Jian's thoughts in his heart, forcing Xi Feng to carefully think about whether there were any loopholes in his words. Of course it's different, Feng Jian found that he couldn't refute it. No matter how it changes, the summoned beasts will always be a supplement to the combat power of the ninja, not the main one. What's the difference? Even if he can play the summoned beasts in a fancy way, isn't it still to serve himself as a ninja? Okay, I'm asking you this question not because I want you to answer it, but because I want to tell you that thinking too much is not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes, it's better to do than to say. If you think you can make a difference, go and prove it to me. Old man Gu Ji looked at Feng Jian's aggrieved face and did not continue to use tough words to peel open Feng Jian's heart. Instead, he comforted him. He had long discovered that his grandson had a lot of ideas, but he was not very active in doing them. This is not acceptable. The profession of ninja is not a politician. Action is always more important than words. Don't you want a summoned beast? Let's go. The forest outside Konoha is very big and it will take us a lot of time. We can't afford to delay. Gu Ji packed his luggage. You agree? I don't care whether you agree or not. The key is you. Having ideas is a good thing, and testing ideas must be supported. As a grandfather, what else can I do to help you besides supporting you? Gu Ji smiled kindly. It is an honor for an elder to be needed by the younger generation, isn't it? The forest outside Konoha is very large, almost surrounded by the forest. An old man and a young man are walking through the forest, not very fast, because they have to pay attention to the surrounding situation at all times. Grandpa, I heard that these forests were created by the wood release of the first generation. Is that true? This is a question that Feng Jian has wanted to ask for a long time. These ninjas are obviously mortals, but their power is really too exaggerated, destroying the world. Maybe. Perhaps. Well, how should I put it, the first generation's wood release is indeed powerful, but I have not seen him create a forest with my own eyes. I only heard from other seniors that some of the forests outside Konoha were indeed created by the first generation's wood release. Gu Ji's answer was a little uncertain, after all, it was a very old memory. Chapter 10. Taro. Entering the sparsely populated forest, the trees blocked out the sun, and the sun was almost invisible, making the forest dark. Unknown insects were chirping, and wild animals were roaring strangely, making Feng Jian feel uneasy as if he was surrounded by enemies. From now on, don't leave my side. Gu Ji put away the calmness on his face and opened his squinting eyes. There must be wild beasts living nearby. He also had this uneasy feeling, but with his strength, he was not too worried. Okay, Grandpa, Feng Jian replied, taking out his bow and arrow, ready to fight at any time. Every Jonin is a hexagonal warrior. They may be good at something, but they definitely have no obvious weaknesses. Those who have weaknesses have died on the battlefield, and those who survive are all veterans. Perception is one of them. Almost every Jonin will work hard on perception. Maybe because of their talent, they are not as good as ninjas with special perception skills, but they will definitely not be without any perception methods. Perception is extremely important for ninjas. They can find the enemy's whereabouts in advance, avoid fatal injuries, etc. Ninjas have strange methods and great lethality. Being able to perceive the enemy in advance is undoubtedly a means to greatly increase the chance of survival, so every Jonin can use some perception methods more or less. Gu Ji is no exception. As a second and third generation disciple, Gu Ji may have average perception talent, but he is definitely not completely incapable of perception. Gu Ji squatted down, his whole body fell into a state of silence, his fingers touched the ground, and the perception technique developed by the second generation Hokage suitable for all ninjas was activated. In a few breaths, Gu Ji had opened his eyes. This way Gu Ji took the lead and ran in the direction he sensed. Grandpa, which one was that just now? Feng Jian's eyes sparkled as he looked at Gu Ji hopefully, hoping to get some guidance. It would be even better if he could learn it. That is a perception technique created by the second generation. It senses the vibrations of the ground and senses the enemies in motion around it. Can I learn? Yes. Perception technique requires talent, and the requirement for chakra is not high, so it doesn't hurt to teach. Great. Feng Jian finally got the first wool from the old man. Shh, keep your voice down, we're almost there, Gu Ji suddenly reminded. Feng Jian nodded to indicate that he understood and that it was better to keep silent at this time. The two slowed down, and with the help of tall tree trunks and treetops, they found the best observation position. As far as they could see, a pair of beasts were fighting each other in ecstasy. Oh, no, it should be said that it was one-sided abuse. On one side was a lizard the size of a donkey, and on the other side was a furry little bear. The lizard relied on its strong body to wantonly bully the little bear, which was already covered with wounds. It seemed that the lizard's teeth were poisonous. It was waiting until the little bear completely lost its resistance before enjoying this sumptuous lunch. How is it? Guji suddenly asked. What do you mean? Feng Jian was also puzzled. This was so incoherent, and what did it mean? How about these two beasts as summoning beasts? Guji saw that Feng Jian didn't answer, thinking that he despised them. Don't underestimate the two of them, they are both beasts that have awakened their chakras. The reason why the lizard didn't eat the little bear immediately was probably because it was worried that the little bear would make a fatal blow. After all, this kind of lizard swallows its prey whole, and if the little bear doesn't die immediately after swallowing it alive, it may cause damage to the lizard in the lizard's stomach. By then, the lizard will surely die. With such intelligence, plus the chakra in its body, plus a body full of toxins, it can have the fighting power of a genin. Even a chunin will be in trouble if it is bitten. Do you want to consider this one? Guji is very optimistic about this lizard. What about the other one? Feng Jian saw the lizard and couldn't help but shudder. In his previous life, he was most afraid of cold-blooded animals like snakes and lizards. He still felt that they were cold and scary. If he had to choose, Feng Jian didn't want to choose this lizard. The other one is not so good. It should be in a semi-adult state. Although it has awakened its chakra, it has no useful means. Its speed and flexibility are not as good as the lizard, so it is teased again and again. Now it has been poisoned and will become a meal for the lizard in no time. I choose the little bear. Feng Jian gave his own choice. Okay, it's good that you've chosen. You choose, bear. Guji looked surprised. In his opinion, the lizard was obviously more useful. After a slight hesitation, Guji did not continue to advise. He respected Feng Jian's choice. Guji jumped down from the tree and activated the instant body technique directly. He pulled out the long sword behind him and used the instant body technique to cut to the right. The sharp long sword brought up a flash of light because of the swift chop. After the flash of the sword, the lizard's head and body were separated. When Guji sheathed the sword, the lizard's head fell to the ground, and its body sprayed blood all over the ground. The lizard, which was evaluated by Guji as having the strength of a genin, was chopped down with a single knife without any reaction. Even at his age, the old man was still so agile. On the other side of the audience, the little bear who was poisoned by the lizard was now limp on the ground. He was poisoned and it was impossible for him to escape. Moreover, the opponent was so powerful that he was really dead this time. He looked at the two uninvited guests who suddenly broke in with a look of horror. His tearful eyes were full of pleading. Hey, you're not stupid. You even know how to beg for mercy. Feng Jian smiled. The look in the little bear's eyes was very similar to the stray cat he adopted in his previous life. There was fear, expectation, despair, and begging for mercy. Don't be nervous, I'm going to save you now, don't hurt me. Kazama took out the antidote he carried with him. This is a universal antidote commonly used by ninjas, and it has a very good resistance to most poisons. Even if the lizard's toxin cannot be detoxified, it should be able to keep little bear going for a while longer, enough for the two of them to rush back to Konoha and go to Konoha Hospital for detoxification. When the little bear saw Feng Jian approaching, he instinctively wanted to hide. The wounds and poison on his body made it very difficult for him to move. Feng Jian easily took him into his arms and fed him the antidote. I don't know if he understood or didn't have the strength to resist, but the little bear fell asleep soon. While bandaging the wound on the little bear, Feng Jian observed the whole body of the little bear. He found that this little bear was not a bear, but a red panda. After all, the golden fur, the brush-like ring-shaped tail, and the innocent and soft face, isn't this the red panda on the instant noodles? In order to argue with my classmates whether it was a raccoon or a red panda, I checked Baidu. I still remember the red panda picture above. Compared with it, the fur color is slightly different, and the rest is the same as the red panda. As for why it is not a raccoon, it is because this furry and long tail with ring-shaped hair, while the raccoon has a short tail. He won't be able to sustain his injuries for too long, let's send him to the veterinarian first, said Guji. Isn't it a hospital? Konoha has a veterinarian. Of course there is. The Inyazuka clan has one, but it's not as famous as the Konoha hospital. Then go quickly. Feng Jian also began to get anxious. The old man was right. It was poisoned and injured. He must not injure it too seriously and affect its growth. This was his first real summoning beast. Chapter 11. The two hurriedly caught up with the little bear. No, now it should be called Taro, the name given by Kazama. No matter whether it was tamed or not, Kazama had already forced the name. This bear cub really suited Kazama's appetite. He looked simple and silly, but he was also smart, which completely conquered Kazama's pet orientation. No matter whether the bear cub agreed or not, Kazama had already decided on him. The Konoha hospital is bustling with people, but the Konoha veterinary station is deserted. The main targets are the ninja dogs of the Inyazuka clan, and most of the practitioners are from the Inyazuka clan, because they know how to raise dogs and can speak animal language. In the past, there were ninja cats from the Uchiha clan who came to the hospital for treatment, but now there are none. The main business is to treat some pets in the village, and it has almost become a family business of the Inyazuka family. Veterinarian, help! As this was his first summoned beast, Feng Jian was naturally concerned. He rushed into the veterinary station and started calling. I'm here. A long-haired beauty came out from somewhere, showing her little fangs, and asked the reckless Feng Jian with a smile. What's the matter? How can I help you? Of course the young lady saw old man Guji who followed in, but she was talking to Feng Jian. As a receptionist, she can always grasp the key points at once. The adults are not anxious, but the children are. There must be something wrong with the things that the children care about. In addition, this is a veterinary station, so the answer is obvious. My summoned beast is poisoned and injured. I asked my sister for help in treating it. After saying that, he pointed behind old man Guja. Taro was carried all the way by old man Guja. Because he was curled up on his back, the young sister did not see him. The old man cooperated and handed the ball of hair on his back to the young lady. The young lady was indeed a professional, and immediately ordered an ambulance to be pushed over. Why is the injury so serious? Vigorous activities after being poisoned will only aggravate the spread of the poison. Prepare for surgery immediately. The young lady was also anxious. As a veterinarian, his profession did not allow him to give up any pet that was in urgent need of treatment. The gentle and lovely young lady's attitude became serious and earnest. She shouted at the man to stop and threw herself into the rescue without caring about the grandfather and grandson present. Is there any hope for Kai Batter? Do you like him? The grandfather and grandson were not on the same page, and the answer was irrelevant. Guji was ready to spend a lot of money to save this little panda, called Taro, at any cost. It was rare that his grandson liked it so much, and it would be his helper on his future ninja journey, so he should pay some money. Professionals are professionals. The grandfather and grandson spent a long time in treatment. In fact, the treatment time was not long. After more than an hour, the toxins had been cleared, and only the wounds on the body needed to be rebandaged. Feng Jian's temporary bandage was too rough. The young lady, who is a veterinarian, couldn't bear to watch it, so she did it herself. 2 days later, in the treehouse, Kai Bataro and Kazama were sitting face to face, with their heads held high. Kasuke was also kneeling beside them, waiting for Kazama to put on a good show. Zabatero, are you willing to be my summoning beast and sign a contract with me? Feng Jian was a little nervous. He didn't know whether Zitaru could understand his request or accept it. After all, this was equivalent to tying his freedom and life to Feng Jian. Zitaru, who was born as a free-spirited beast, would be willing to believe Feng Jian? After the red panda woke up, he knew that it was Feng Jian who saved him. He had always been very friendly to Feng Jian. His injuries gradually healed in the past 2 days. He knew it was time to make a decision. Leave or stay? Facing Feng Jian's request, he understood it, but he was hesitant. Squeak! Kai Bataro, who had been listening nearby, joined the conversation rudely and said this to Tsuru Taro. Om. Squeak! Well, Feng Jian, the person in charge, was left aside. The two big babies were chatting enthusiastically, but the animal language they spoke was incomprehensible to Feng Jian except for themselves, let alone a word. He shrugged helplessly at the old man Guji who had been kneeling for a long time and smiled bitterly. Old man Guji didn't tolerate it either. He laughed silently. Fearing that he would disturb the happy scene, he picked up the teacup and said buzz with relish. After waiting for the two little ones to finish chatting, Taro stretched out his 3 paws and barked at Fengjian. He wants you to agree to his 3 conditions. Kaibataro acted as an interpreter and started to speak human language. Kaibataro has been with Kazama for such a long time, but his strength is still the same illusion that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work, and he hasn't made much progress. But his wisdom is getting higher and higher. Not only can he understand everything Kazama said, he can understand the tactical arrangements, and even to some extent he can keep up with Kazama's thinking. And now he can speak animal language, understand the language of other animals, and has learned human pronunciation, making him a real translation expert. Therefore, even if Kaibataro is not suitable for combat scenes in the future, acting as an auxiliary ninja beast like Parker will be a rare help. 3 conditions? Tell me about them. What's going on? After awakening chakra and gaining wisdom, you know how to make conditions? First, when he follows you, you must make sure he is well fed and never hungry. This is the deep memory of Taro's time wandering alone in the forest. He was always worried about how to feed himself. But he was just a half-grown bear cub with limited abilities, and was often half-hungry. Fortunately, red pandas are omnivorous animals, and even if they don't have meat, they can survive by eating insects and grass seeds. Otherwise, they might not live until Fengjian saves them. No problem, there's plenty of food, you can eat meat or vegetables, it's up to you. What kind of condition is this? As his summoning beast, how can he let them go hungry? Fengjian is not that kind of person. It seems that even with wisdom, it is still relatively simple. The second condition, you have to help him become stronger. He wants to seek revenge on the lizard clan. His parents died under the siege of the lizard clan. Claw Taro did not speak, but raised his claws with a serious face, and retracted one of the 3 claws he stretched out. Hiss, there is such a thing? Okay, I agree. However, I can help you become stronger, but becoming stronger is a very hard thing, and you need to persevere on your own. Become stronger, haha, of course the stronger the summoning beast, the better. Even if Claw Taro doesn't mention it, he will also train him. Squeak. Zutaro nodded. Zabutaro agreed and said he would try his best. The third condition, you have to help take care of the food or items we bring back, such as preserving honey and drying nuts. After saying this, Kaibataro's eyes rolled. Okay, this is easy. Drying nuts? Kaibatar, are you sure you don't have any hidden stuff in it? Kazama's face turned pale and he glanced at Kaibatar with the side of his eyes. Oh, there's nothing we can do. There are too many nuts and the treehouse is damp. Many nuts are going moldy. If they are not dried in the sun, they will be inedible in a few days. Seeing that he was found out, Kaibatar was not embarrassed. Instead, he began to present the facts and reason. But I was right about the honey. This was Takiya's request. He likes sweet things. Okay, I'll help you. With Kaibataro as the translator, the 2 sides quickly reached an agreement. The above 3 conditions were not difficult for Kazama to meet and he could agree to them. Chapter 12. Psychic Technique. For Jutaro, the problem of eating was solved, and the problem of becoming stronger and taking revenge was also solved. His life was peaceful. As for the third condition, it was added by Kaibataru and had nothing to do with him. I'm going to cut your claws now and sign a spiritual contract with you. It's going to be a little painful, don't be afraid. Kazama took out a kunai and prepared to bleed. Kaibatar patted his chest to indicate that it was okay, and even extended his claws. Although Kaibatar is not big, his claws are too thick. They look like bear paws, but they are a little small. He carefully pierced the skin and squeezed out a few drops of blood. Old man Guja, who had been prepared for a long time, took out a blank spiritual scroll, and after a few quick seals, he pressed the bear paw on the scroll, activated the chakra, and the runes like ants instantly surrounded the bear paw, and then gradually formed a circle around the bear paw, with various sealing techniques on the outside. It's done, Kazama. The old man put away his chakra, checked the technique, and found no problem. He reminded Kazama that he could sign the contract. Here it comes. He rubbed his fingers with the kunai, rubbed them together, and then pressed them on the scroll. Is it done? After he finished, Kazama asked. Can I try? Try what? The art of spiritualism. Kosuk was stunned, looked at Fengjian, and then looked at Zutaro who was sucking the claw. Okay, let's try it. The hand seals of the summoning technique are Haisu Yu Shen Wei. The summoning technique itself is not high level. In the original work, even Naruto succeeded in the first time. The level of this technique is determined by the distance and size between the summoned creature and the summoner. The farther the distance, the larger the size, the more chakra is consumed, and the higher the level. For example, Naruto summoned Buntat, and he had to use the Nine Tails chakra for the first time, which means that the consumption is not small. Kazama's summoning technique is simple, as Jutaro is right beside him, and his size and power are small, so it doesn't take much chakra. This is also the conclusion that Kasuke came to after evaluating Jutaro and Kazama's chakra. Haisuyu Shenwei, the art of summoning spirits. He slowly formed seals. As he formed seals, his chakra was instinctively mobilized. As he slapped his left hand on the ground, chakra surged out. He felt as if an inexplicable feeling was emanating from his body. The next moment, Jutaro, who was 3 or 4 steps away from Kazama, suddenly stood up, disappeared from the spot with a bang, and appeared in front of Kazama with another bang. The hand that Kazama had pressed on the ground was now pressed on Kaibataro's head. Is this the summoning technique? Wow, I finally learned my first combat ninjutsu. Kazama picked up Tachibana and rolled into a ball. Squeak squeak. Kaibataro was furious. He pointed at the 2 people rolling together and started to scold them. He didn't even speak human language. In short, the swearing was not a nice thing to say. You want to come too? Fengjian understood what Kaibataro meant. Grandpa. Guji nodded, and without putting away the spiritual scroll that was still on the ground, he just followed the previous pattern and did it again. Kaibataro also joined Kazama's summoning beasts. When time is filled with busyness, it will quietly slip away quickly. Fengjian's training, although not desperate, is also full. Swordsmanship and archery are the top priorities of Fengjian's training. After all, they will be the main means of output in the future, so he can't be lazy. The only thing left is wind escape, which gives Fengjian a headache. It's not that there is no progress, but that he can feel the progress, but he always doesn't feel the determination to improve. He always makes a little progress every day, but he can't speed up no matter what. After using swordsmanship and archery, he would occasionally have a feeling of enlightenment and sudden enlightenment. He did not practice wind escape technique, but only repeated it over and over again, swinging the sword instinctively with his own chakra. He was very skilled at it, but he could never achieve the sharpness of wind escape technique that could cut through things with one stroke. Is there something wrong with the method? That's impossible. They were all just cutting leaves. Kazama just added the sword swinging element to the sword technique. Logically speaking, with the involvement of the sword, one should be able to better understand the feeling of sharpness. The method is correct, that is, he simply has no talent. Or it can be said that this body does not have the talent for wind escape. Fengjian has not tested his chakra attributes, because chakra test paper is actually very expensive. Fengjian is reluctant to buy it. Anyway, chakra attributes can be developed by oneself. Whether there is a certain chakra talent or not, it is nothing more than practicing a little slower, and it can always be developed. This is Fengjian's idea. It is best to have a talent for wind escape, but if not, he can develop it himself. The development progress is not satisfactory. Kazama was thinking about wind jutsu, and sharpness was the change in the nature of wind jutsu, and the emphasis was on being as sharp as a knife. In the original work, when Asuma taught Naruto how to change the nature of wind attribute, his original words were, sharper, thinner. It was really a description that couldn't be simpler. Wait, simple? Fengjian suddenly thought of a question. It is true that chakra can carry will, but the will it carries seems to be relatively simple and single will. For example, Gaara's sand carries his mother's protection for him, and protecting him is her top priority under any circumstances. Another example is fire style. From the 3rd generation to ordinary ninjas, there are many changes in the nature of fire style, but everyone has only mastered a single change in the nature of fire style. It has never happened that a ninja can use 2 different changes in the same attribute of ninjutsu. In other words, chakra can have different attributes, but the changes of different attributes in the same person must be single, without any mixture, and must be pure. Then, when it comes to Kazama, there seems to be a reason why his wind escape cannot succeed. At first, his idea was to make it sharper and thinner according to the plot, and then he put it on the sword, and it became as sharp as a knife. But in Kazama's mind, Any kind of ninjutsu cannot have only a single change in nature, but should be diverse. This leads to Kazama's understanding of the change in the nature of wind escape not being pure. The result is that wind escape cannot carry mixed thoughts and cannot form a stable single change in nature. This is why wind escape can never take shape. In order to make the nature of wind escape take shape, the thought that Kazama gives to chakra must be simple and pure. This requires Kazama to dig out the most real thoughts in his heart when practicing, and imprint these thoughts in his bones and on his chakra. At that time, wind escape will be successful. Wind escape? If you don't watch anime, who knows what wind escape is? In other words, the so-called wind escape is just the explanation given by the anime, not Kazama's own understanding. Why do we need to practice wind escape? Because in close combat, the sharp wind escape can hurt the enemy like a sword, and in long-range combat, it can also give the bow and arrow strong penetrating power. If fire style could have this kind of characteristics, Kazama would also choose to practice fire style. Chapter 13. Sparring. In other words, what Kazama pursued was not wind escape, but the kind of wind escape that could cut through everything with one stroke, which was unstoppable. To put it simply, it could cut through everything. Kazama felt that he had found the wind escape in his heart. When used on a sword, it can cut in two with one stroke, when used on an arrow, it can be unstoppable. This is the wind escape technique in Feng Jian's mind. The wooden sword in his hand swung out, and the flying leaf passed by in one stroke. It did not split in two as Feng Jian imagined. Instead, he could not even find the leaf. After Kai Bataro reminded him, he found that the leaf was stuck on the sword. He had already cut into a part of the leaf, and the remaining force was not enough to completely cut the leaf, so it was stuck on the wooden sword. There is progress. Feng Jian's eyes lit up. He had indeed sorted out his thoughts, found the crux of the problem, and prescribed the right medicine. This was his correct way of cultivation. Naruto's method of doing things recklessly was not suitable for him. He had too many distracting thoughts in his mind and it was too easy to go astray. Naruto's method was only suitable for Naruto, who was stubborn, and people like Xiao Li. The days passed quickly as Feng Jian went to school and practiced. After sorting out his thoughts and practicing hard for a period of time, Feng Jian finally completed the practice of wind escape. "Grandpa, do you want to compete in swordsmanship?" Feng Jian challenged Guja. To be honest, Feng Jian rarely provoked the old man because he was not strong enough. He provoked the old man just to get beaten. After trying a few times, Feng Jian learned his lesson. Guji looked at Feng Jian with a smile, his wrinkled face like a bronze structure was full of kindness. "Okay, it's a good opportunity to check your recent training situation." The old man taught Kazama casually. When he was in the mood, he taught more. When he was not in the mood, he refused decisively. Unless Kazama made a mistake, he would never say a word to encourage him. The only time he took the initiative to teach Kazama was when Kazama was not practicing swordsmanship properly, and he forced Kazama to learn a set of basic kendo moves. At other times, he did whatever he wanted. Fortunately, Feng Jian was determined to do well. He didn't practice hard, but he was diligent. He succeeded in practicing wind escape this time, and wanted to show off in front of the old man. He wanted to prove that he was capable of practicing ninjutsu, so as to get some benefits. After all, the nature of wind escape was changed, but he didn't know how to practice wind escape ninjutsu. There are still 2 or 3 years left before graduation from the ninja school. Kazama doesn't want to just rely on the popular 3-body technique to get by after graduation. He must practice ninjutsu while there is still plenty of time. When the protagonists come on stage, they will improve at a rapid speed that an ordinary person like me may not be able to catch up with. It would be embarrassing if I were really stepped on by these juniors. "Grandpa, be careful." Holding the wooden sword that he had changed countless times, Feng Jian rushed towards the old man without hesitation and chopped him hard from the upper left to the lower right. The old man picked up a wooden stick, simply raised it, and held it across his head, then took the heavy blow from Feng Jian. Compared with the old man, Feng Jian's strength was still a little lacking. One of his swords was blocked, but Feng Jian didn't care. He continued to attack. He used the 13 sword techniques, and only used the chopping move. He chopped, slashed, chopped, picked, cut, pushed, stabbed, slid, stirred, collapsed, tapped, and pulled out one sword after another. The biggest difference between Japanese swordsmanship and the swordsmanship used by Feng Jian, except for the shape of the sword, is that the Chinese swordsmanship is held with one hand, which is more flexible and adaptable. He knew that his strength was not as good as the old man, so he used the Chinese swordsmanship of holding the sword with one hand. The old man's eyes were burning, and he naturally saw the difference between the two at a glance, but he didn't say anything. Since his grandson didn't give up the idea of the one-handed sword, he decided to try his one-handed sword. The two fought back and forth, and the wooden swords and wooden sticks clashed dozens of times. Feng Jian was better at attacking than defending. The old man was obviously considering this and always focused on defense. Feng Jian was not polite either. He said that swordsmanship not only depends on practice, actual combat is also an important part. How could he let go of such a good opponent like the old man? 8-direction hidden sword style. Feng Jian roared, the real meaning of this move is hiding, that is, making it impossible for the opponent to predict the direction of the sword. After the basic sword technique was demonstrated, Feng Jian finally took out his signature sword technique, which was one of the only 2 sets of sword techniques that Feng Jian learned in the martial arts club of the university. The other set of sword techniques was the Liu He sword technique. Splitting Huashan Mountain with force. Night battle. Dragon sword. Knife holding. Head wrapped. The sword techniques performed by Feng Jian were completely different from the old man's ideas, which made the old man's eyes light up. However, he was also a little confused. He didn't teach Feng Jian these things, so how did he learn them? Although Feng Jian was shouting loudly, he actually made no progress under the defense of the old man. Since he wanted to show his strength, hiding his weakness had nothing to do with Feng Jian. After the Chinese swordsmanship was demonstrated, the next step was the Japanese swordsmanship. Feng Jian practiced the basic swordsmanship taught by the old man, and even extended some moves. After all, with the help of film and television dramas, it was much easier to follow the gourd. Feng Jian sheathed his sword, held it on his waist with one hand, squatted down, raised his other hand to his chest, and assumed the posture of sword drawing. Hee, how could Feng Jian not know about such a famous comic adapted movie? When he was learning the basic swordsmanship, he was wondering why the basic moves were so familiar. It turned out that he had seen it in his previous life. Oh, sword drawing technique. The old man was still confused, and when he saw Feng Jian made a new posture, he couldn't help but become very interested. He slowly adjusted his breathing, and gathered chakra under his feet. The sword drawing technique of the Hiten Mikan Ryu required a speed boost, which Feng Jian naturally did not have, but he had a bankrupt version of the body flickering technique, which was better than nothing. Feng Jian had been planning the old man's body flickering technique for a long time, but it was a pity that he had never been taught it. The old man still had a kind face and steady footsteps, but Mimi's eyesight was not very good, so it was difficult for Feng Jian to observe the old man's movements through his eyes. There was no other way, the arrow was on the string and had to be shot. With a slight force on his feet, the ground shattered instantly with the help of chakra. Then, with the recoil force, Feng Jian rushed out instantly, drew his sword, slashed across the wooden stick that the old man was chopping down, and then chopped down at a faster speed. The sword drawing contest ended with Kazama chopping off the old man's stick. Okay, that's an idea, but it's not enough. The old man picked up a stick again, and this time he took an offensive stance. A resolute and fierce aura spread out instantly, as if a sharp blade was pointing right in front of Feng Jian's eyes, making Feng Jian dare not move. Can't you bear it anymore? The old man exhaled and spoke. Feng Jian was stunned for a moment, then realized that he was trapped in the old man's aura. He concentrated his mind and calmed down, and once again assumed the posture of drawing the sword. Just kidding, the old man is attacking, and Feng Jian has the possibility of defending. This man is a master who kills one person with one sword on the battlefield. I, a little Karami, want to defend, it's a joke. Since you can't defend, then give up. Feishan Yujian style itself is to give up defense and use offense instead of defense. Oh, attack against attack. The old man narrowed his eyes, as if he could see through Kazama, trying to analyze the angles of Kazama's attacks. But Feng Jian did not move at all, just kept gathering strength. No intention of taking the initiative to attack? No, if we continue to gather strength like this, we might be defeated by the enemy in one move. This is forcing me to attack first. The old man is experienced and instantly assessed the current situation. Chapter 14. Prove yourself. Just as the old man expected, the current situation did not allow him to hesitate. Feng Jian was gathering his strength, and the longer the time was, the greater the power he would gather, and the faster he would act. The old man could not just sit and wait for Feng Jian to gather his strength, he had to make a move immediately to interrupt Feng Jian's gathering of strength. The left horizontal cut basic knife technique is very skillful in the hands of the old man. It is obviously the simplest move, but the angle, speed, and strength of the move are impeccable. The combination of instant body movement and knife skills is at the ancestor level. Feng Jian only felt a flash of knife light before his eyes, and he didn't even have time to make too many movements. However, the touch of the wooden sword in his hand made Feng Jian smile. Flying sword style double dragon flash. After saying the name of the move, Feng Jian's eyes went dark and his body fell to the ground. The contest ended with Feng Jian using the double dragon flash beyond his physical limit and hitting the old man. When Feng Jian woke up, several hours had passed. Recalling the situation carefully, the old man's sword was too fast, so fast that Feng Jian had no time to think carefully or make any extra movements. The wooden sword matched the scabbard, and he could only swing the moves according to his body's instinct. In fact, here, Feng Jian had already lost because he lost control of his body and the sword. This is the consequence of not reaching the realm and forcibly using moves beyond the body's ability. If it was on the battlefield, Kazama would have been dead. Fortunately, this was just a sparring match, and the opponent was his grandfather. It was just the touch of the wooden sword at the end, it should have hit the old man. Oh, by the way, old man. Feng Jian sat up in shock and ran out of the tree house. He saw that the old man was making tea under the tree house and Kyotaro and Clawtaro were leisurely eating roasted nuts. Kyotaro was kind enough to knock 2 nuts at a time, one for himself and one for Clawtaro, and he was enjoying the nuts. After eating a few, he drank a sip of the tea poured by the old man. I don't know why the 2 summoned beasts like tea. Even for humans, Japanese tea is a bit bitter, and only old people like it. Grandpa Feng Jian walked forward and sat next to the campfire. Woke up. Okay. Grandpa Feng Jian walked forward and sat next to the campfire. Woke up. Okay. Yo-yo, the 2 little ones raised their paws to show their presence, and Feng Jian raised his hand to indicate that he saw it. Grandpa, I want to learn ninjutsu. After holding it in for several days, Kazama finally made his request to the old man. You are still too young now, and your chakra is not enough. The expected excuse. Kazama remained silent, silently resisting the old man's stubbornness. Hey, you are always so anxious. In my opinion, ninjutsu is actually the most trivial thing. As long as you have enough chakra and chakra control, ninjutsu is the application of these basic abilities. You can practice it in a few days. After you are a little proficient, you can apply it in combat. Therefore, the amount of chakra, chakra control, nature changes, and physical training are the projects that should be polished with time. After saying this, he saw that Kazama was unmoved. Alas, young people are always obsessed with dazzling ninjutsu. After sighing, both of them fell into silence. What he said just now was the result of his lifelong experience, but unfortunately, no matter how much you teach someone, they will never learn it. Even though Kazama is considered an experienced person, he still can't help but be curious about ninjutsu, especially knowing that he is only 2 years older than the protagonist. In other words, if he wants to avoid being crushed by the protagonists in the future, these 2 years are the time for Kazama to accumulate his experience. Speak of the devil, the grandfather and grandson fell silent, but someone rudely broke into their living space. Squeak. OMOM. If Feng Jian noticed the 2 little ones' sensitive reactions, there must be something wrong. He silently paid attention to the surroundings, and a small figure poking out from behind the tree shocked Feng Jian. Why is it him? The t-shirt that was neither yellow nor white, the shorts, the ninja shoes, the blonde hair, and the beard on the face all suggested that this strange guest was an acquaintance. After coming to this world, almost all time travelers will consider one question: should they contact the future protagonist? Once they do, the best outcome is to be under the surveillance of the 3rd Hokage and Danzo. Every move will be noticed, and there is always the risk of being exposed. Especially Danzo, who doesn't care about evidence. Any behavior that he can't understand may be regarded as evidence of a spy. As a time traveler, some strange behavior is too normal. How to explain it at that time? Approaching Naruto means being exposed. So Kazama had always planned to stay away from Naruto, knowing that Naruto was only 2 years younger than him and that everyone in Konoha village hated him. While he sympathized with Naruto's experience, he never approached him. His own life was a mess, so how could he care about others? But today Naruto broke in by himself. What should he do? Drive him away? Looking at Naruto's weak and curious eyes, Feng Jian couldn't do such a bad thing. Except? He glanced at the old man, hoping that the old man had a certain weight in the hearts of the third Hokage and Danzo. He waved at the figure behind the tree, signaling him to come over. The figure in the dark was startled, walked out from behind the tree, pointed at himself, and after confirming that it was him, he immediately showed a silly and happy expression, ran to the campfire and looked around curiously. Kazama served Naruto a portion of the food cooked by the old man on the campfire. Naruto took it nervously and expectantly, wolfing down the food in the bowl. Even though he was breathing heavily from the heat, he was reluctant to spit it out. He controlled his eyes and didn't let them fall on Naruto, as he was afraid that he would not be able to help but say something he shouldn't. Naruto finished the food in the bowl like a puppy, politely put down his bowl and chopsticks, clasped his hands together, and thanked Kazama. "Hello, big brother. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Thank you for treating me to such delicious food. When you're hungry, you can come here often. There's only me and my grandfather here, no outsiders. When you come, there's nothing else, but enough food." Kazama pretended to be indifferent. Now, he didn't want to have too much interaction with Naruto. Providing Naruto with a place to eat was the greatest help that Kazama could do. In his heart, he silently said sorry to Naruto. After all, Kazama is still a modern soul. He knew that Naruto was not doing well, but he watched helplessly, feeling indescribable guilt in his heart. "Really? Thank you, big brother, thank you, grandpa." Naruto jumped up and down with joy. "Do you like it? If you like, you can have another bowl." The old man served another bowl to Naruto. Naruto happily took it and gobbled it up again. It seemed that he was really hungry. This year, Kazama was 10 years old and Naruto was 8 years old. In the Hokage's office, Danzo rushed in and yelled at the third Hokage, "Do you know how important the Nine Tails is? You actually let an outsider contact him. What if that person is a spy from another ninja village? The outsider you're talking about is Maraboshi Kasuke." Yes, even someone as shady as Danzo couldn't say that Maraboshi Kasuke was a spy from another country. This was a reputation the old man had spent his entire life building. In short, the protection of the Nine Tails cannot be neglected. If you can't do it well, leave it to the root. Danzo was stubborn. He knew that this time his attempt to cause trouble would be in vain, but he just kept on being stubborn and refused to admit defeat to the third Hokage. "Don't worry about that. I've said that the root is not allowed to interfere in the Nine Tails issue. Don't forget, I'm the Hokage." As expected of an old teammate, he knew how to irritate Danzo. You will regret this, Hiruzen." Danzo left the Hokage's office angrily. Chapter 15. A Bright Future. The third generation sat behind the large desk, pondered for a moment, then stood up and walked out of the village. "It seems that I have come at the right time." The gentle voice of the third generation sounded behind Feng Jian and others. Everyone looked back and saw the third generation walking out from the shadows. The firelight was reflected on his face, making him look older, yet kinder. At this moment, the third generation looked like an old man seeing his younger generation. The third generation of adults. The third generation of adults. Grandpa Hokage. The three of them stood up and greeted each other. The third generation smiled and sat down around the campfire. "Guji, why don't you treat an old man like me to a meal?" Guji smiled and said, "It's my honor that the third master likes it." He immediately served a bowl to the third master. "I have to say, Guji, your cooking skills are still so good that it makes people salivate." After saying that, he picked up a piece of food and threw it into his mouth. Yeah, the food Grandpa Guji cooks is super delicious." Naruto nodded beside him. "Naruto likes it too. I love so much." "Ha ha ha, as long as you like it, your love for delicious food is the greatest compliment to the cook." Naruto just nodded, seeing that the respected Hokage liked Grandpa Kasuke's food as much as he did. Naruto, who was full, felt that he could eat a little more. "Another bowl!" Naruto shouted, holding up the bowl. "You've already eaten 2 bowls. If you eat any more, you might have indigestion." Kazama reminded. Seeing Naruto looking like he was asking for death, no matter how delicious the food is, he shouldn't eat too much. "I don't care, I still want to eat." Okay, here you go." The pleasant time of eating always passes quickly. After eating, the energetic Naruto was already sleepy, but the other three people present ignored him. The third generation said, "Thank you for the hospitality." Kazama also knew that something might have happened today, and the most likely person was Naruto. As long as the third generation master likes it. How about this, to thank you for this delicious meal, I will teach you a ninjutsu, Kazama. Really? Thank you, third generation master. Feng Jian was stunned. There was an unexpected surprise today. The defeat with the old man was basically declared a failure and he could only take the long view. He did not expect to make up for it here. The Sandai put his hands behind his back and walked to the open space. Watch out, this is Earth Escape. The Earth Clone Technique. The Sandai slowly made seals one by one. Next to the Sandai, a human-shaped clay doll gradually emerged from the ground, and then gradually turned into the appearance of the Sandai. Kazama saw it clearly from the side. The third Hokage intentionally slowed down the speed of forming hand seals. The hand seals of the Earth Clone were also complete and not simplified. At the level of the third Hokage, a ninjutsu like the Earth Clone could be used by just putting both hands together. There was no need to be so rigid. The reason for doing this was to allow Kazama to understand it. Of course, Kazama understood the third generation's good intentions and took it very seriously. Do you see clearly? See clearly. Okay, next, you just need to keep practicing on your own. If you don't understand something, you can ask your grandfather. The third generation explained gently, with no intention of continuing the demonstration. Hey, I'll practice hard. Kazama took the initiative to go to the side to practice with the newly acquired Earth Clone. He knew that the Sandai had work to do with the old man and taught him ninjutsu. In addition to being really grateful for the hospitality, he also wanted to transfer him away. For a shrewd person like the Sandai, any action was not meaningless. I took it upon myself to teach Kazama ninjutsu. I hope I didn't destroy your teachings. Asked the third generation. I plan to teach him ninjutsu after Kazama's foundation is more solid. Guji did not hide it. The elders of their generation always attach great importance to the basics. Guji's plan can be seen from the fact that Kazama has not yet learned a proper ninjutsu. The reason why the third generation asked this was just to dispel Guji's doubts. Isn't it normal for young people to be curious about ninjutsu? We were the same at the beginning. Simply preaching doesn't necessarily work. Why not teach him some practical low-level ninjutsu and let him experience the difficulty of practicing ninjutsu? Young people will learn lessons only after experiencing hardships and will know how to turn back after being frustrated. Isn't this more convincing than verbal preaching? Kasuke lowered his head in thought, maybe Hokage-sama is right. Okay, enough small talk. I came here today mainly for Naruto. You know his identity as the Nine Tails. Guji remained silent. He was indignant at the villagers and the Hokage's attitude towards a child, but he was powerless and could only turn a blind eye. The villagers have too much malice towards him, and you entertained him today, making him feel the kindness that he hasn't seen for a long time. Naruto may come here often in the future, I hope you don't mind. Lord Sandame. Guji was puzzled. If he was worried about the safety of the nine-tailed fox, why did he let him come here? No matter how cruel and bloody the ninjas are, we still maintain our faith in our hearts. The reason why we haven't lost ourselves is that there is always a clean place in our hearts that gives us warmth and kindness and protects our souls. The villagers have too much malice towards Naruto. I was the one who showed him kindness before, and now he has found you. This is his luck. I hope you won't refuse. Yes, I understand, Sandame-sama. From now on, I'll ask you to take good care of Naruto. The third generation put on a hat, left a word, picked up Naruto who was sleeping like a pig, and flashed away. Has the third generation master left? Let's go, how's your Earth Escape training going? I have no idea. I don't seem to have the talent for practicing escape techniques. Is there anything that can test my talent? Wouldn't it be more effective to learn escape techniques that I am good at? The speaker may not mean it, but the listener may take it seriously. There really is something that can determine talent. Chakra sensing paper can accurately test a person's talent for escape techniques. Normally, this thing should have been arranged for Fengjian long ago, but Guji wanted to keep Fengjian under pressure, so he was not in a hurry for the time being. Now it seems that he has to use it. Let's try it. The old man took out 2 pieces of note paper. This is the thing you want that can test your aptitude for escaping techniques. It's the chakra test paper. Just input the chakra into it, and based on the changes in the paper, you can find out the chakra attributes that this person is good at. Guji thought that Feng Jian didn't know, so he kindly explained. Of course Kazama knew about chakra testing paper, but it was his first time seeing the real thing and he didn't recognize it. Is this the chakra test paper? Feng took it and input a trace of chakra. Sure enough, the chakra paper reacted instantly and split into two, one side was soaked and the other side shattered. What is this? Feng Jian's eyes lit up. It seemed that he had some talent. He actually had 3 attributes. The 3 attributes of wind, water, and earth. Guji saw it clearly. He didn't care about his grandson's chakra attributes. The strength of a ninja has never been related to attributes. Chapter 16. Customized Ninja Tool. Since I have wind attribute, why is it so difficult to change the nature of wind chakra? Feng Jian suspected that his wind attribute was developed, not innate. This is the only explanation. After all, 3 attributes, anyway, is considered a small genius level. There is no reason for Feng Jian to be at this level. Do you have any questions? He shared his guesses with the old man one by one, and the old man was also stunned. When did you start practicing wind attribute chakra? When practicing swordplay. You've been practicing swordplay since the beginning. This time it was the old man's turn to be silent. Kazama has been practicing swordsmanship every day since he entered the ninja school. According to what Kazama said, he succeeded only this year, which is really possible. After all, it takes 3 or 4 years to develop a change in the nature of chakra. This talent is really not good. Grandpa, can you teach me water escape? My talent is suitable for water escape. You can't stop taking advantage of others. You have to grab the opportunity when you can. There's no time to waste. Didn't you just start learning earth escape? Once you learn it, I will teach you water escape. The old man rejected the greedy grandson in a bad mood. Okay, it's a deal. Isn't this a final word? You learned earth escape, right? If you have the talent for earth escape, there's no reason why you can't do it well. The earth clone is only sea level difficulty, right? Let's do it. The seal of earth escape, earth clone technique was completed within 2 seconds, and a clay doll clone appeared beside Kazama, a brown human-like figure. As it took shape, it gradually revealed a form exactly the same as Kazama. Consecutive arrows, 2 in a row. The earth clone and Kazama were like twins, with exactly the same movements. They raised their bows and arrows and shot 2 arrows in a row, 2 for Kazama and 2 for the earth clone. 4 arrows were shot in a square and headed straight for the wild boar in the distance. The wild boar was searching for the target, but who knew that someone in a tree not far away was playing long-range sniping. When the sound of arrows breaking through the air came, the wild boar had no time to react. The arrows had already penetrated half of the boar's eyes, neck, front legs, and hind legs. As strong as the wild boar was, it was stunned by the instantaneous attack. He wanted to escape, but he stumbled to the ground after running a few steps. The arrow in his leg had already made him unable to move. The arrows in his neck and eyes were indeed his fatal injuries. In just a few breaths, the wild boar was left gasping for breath and was about to go to the underworld. Naruto, come out, you will be responsible for cleaning up, let me see how good your swordsmanship is. Kazama called out to Naruto, who was following from a distance. Okay, watch me. Naruto rolled up his sleeves, grabbed a large kunai that was more than a foot long in his hand, and attacked with one move. The entire kunai, including the handle, went in, leaving only the ring at the tail outside. Puff! As the kunai was pulled out, the spurting blood splashed all over Naruto. Naruto, who was originally wearing an orange suit, now became a bloody man. Hey, stay away from me. You're killing a pig, and you're making it look so filthy. Feng Jian said with disdain. Naruto's talent is not bad, but his clumsy habit is deeply rooted. The two of them went hunting, with Kazama as the main output and Naruto as the auxiliary. In order to train Naruto, Naruto had to act as bait, butcher, and porter from time to time. It was hard to assess Naruto's strength, but his physical strength was really trained. He was 2 years younger than Kazama, but he was still full of energy after running around for a day. We don't want the pigskin anymore. It's too dirty and difficult to handle. Let's just throw it away and cut it open, removing the bones and taking out the meat. The two of them have collaborated more than once or twice. At this time, Kazama mainly does the talking while Naruto does the hands. In a quarter of an hour, the fat wild boar had turned into pieces of meat, which Naruto put in 2 large backpacks. Okay, this bag of good meat will be sent to Uncle Shouta. He has placed an order. This bag of bones, pig heads, pig trotters, etc. will be sent to the orphanage. It should be enough for them to have a meal. What do you think? Okay, let's arrange it this way. Ever since Naruto was promised that he could eat for free every day, the treehouse became a place where Naruto would check in every day, and occasionally go to the hand-beating uncle to change the taste. In order to train Naruto, he was also tricked into taking some orders for ingredients, such as various meat-producing beasts, fish, and even mushrooms and wild vegetables. The main customers were the hand-beating uncle's ramen shop. Anyway, the two of them hung out together every day, and there was no time to stop with Naruto. These ingredients that the two could not finish were all sent to the hand-beating uncle. The hand-beating uncle would use them if he could, and sell them if he couldn't. Not to mention, the money earned was enough for the two of them to use as pocket money. Naruto's big kunao was bought with his saved pocket money. As for Kazama, he had saved up almost all his money, but he hadn't spent it yet because he hadn't made up his mind. The extra meat can be sent to the orphanage. It was not for anything else. I passed by the orphanage and took a closer look, and then I made this decision. After all, hunting is also a form of training, and it is a side job. When I didn't see it, Feng Jian could fool himself. When I saw it, I could lend a hand within my ability. Why not? Weapons are not like food. You can make do with today's meal, and it's okay if you don't like tomorrow's meal. This is the most dependent partner in battle. Once you choose it, you will probably use it as a companion for the rest of your ninja career. Bows and arrows, there is no choice, or rather, there are many choices. Since I decided to use bows and arrows as weapons, I have made more than a dozen bows and crossbows over the years. I rotate them and use them. It's enough, unless there are new requirements for breakthroughs in archery in the future. It's enough for the Genin period. Melee weapons are the reason why Kazama hesitated. If Feng Jian was an aboriginal, he would choose kunao, samurai sword, and the like, but he was not. The fusion of the knowledge of the two worlds gave him too many choices. There are 18 kinds of weapons, and Feng Jian practices swordsmanship, so the weapon must be a sword. But there are so many kinds of swords: Tang sword, Mongolian scimitar, dog-leg sword, embroidered spring sword, ox-tail sword, each of which represents the rise and fall of one or several dynasties. They can definitely be used, but as for weapons, you must choose the one you like most in your heart, otherwise, it would be as disgusting as marrying a wife and marrying someone you don't like. Once again, I picked up the wooden sword that I had used for a long time. I had used this wooden sword for more than a year. Since I started to learn wind attribute chakra, I adjusted the direction of my sword training and paid more attention to the grasp of changes and timing. This is a deep study of skills, which actually caused less damage to the wooden sword. This wooden sword was thus preserved intact. Looking at the almost intact blade, it was slick with sweat. Suddenly, I felt that my entanglement was a little funny. I had already made an instinctive choice, so why was I still thinking about it? In the end, I was poisoned by the online novels in my previous life. The most important thing about a sword is that it suits you. No matter what others choose. After so many years of sword training, my body has long been familiar with the size and shape of wooden swords. In other words, wooden swords are the most suitable sword type for Feng Jian. Other time travelers can defeat everything with their fists, but it is difficult for me to choose a weapon. This is it. Feng Jian chose the sword type in his mind, using the shape of wooden swords, the Tosa Machete. Taking this wooden sword as a prototype, Feng Jian picked up the small knife used to scrape arrow shafts, attached wind attribute chakra to it, and began to carve it carefully. After all, the wooden sword was rough and not fine enough, so some slight modifications had to be made to the details. Chapter 17. Uninvited Guest. Facts have proved that once a goal is set and it comes to the execution stage, it is often easiest to just move forward. The Tosajai Yamatake sword, which is very different from the one in the ninja world, was finally obtained after Kazama spent all his savings and waited for half a month. The handle is suitable for gripping, enough for holding with both hands. The tail of the blade is slightly wider and thicker to prevent slipping. The tail of the blade can be removed, and there are wire saws and flints inside. The blade jaw is not designed with complicated patterns, but a bronze S shape, which is simple and beautiful. The blade is 2 feet long and sharpened on one side. The blade has a certain curvature for splitting. The middle of the back of the blade is serrated, which has a certain degree of sawing effect. The blade head is designed with a bulge like a goosewing, sharpened on both sides, suitable for splitting and stabbing. After getting my hands on this knife that I designed myself, I couldn't let it go. I kept sheathing it and swinging it from time to time. If there weren't so many people in the store, I would have wanted to play with it for a while. After getting the blade, Feng Jian returned to the tree house, drew his sword, and performed a set of sword techniques, feeling very satisfied. Squeak! The 2 little guys raised their paws in protest, saying that Feng Jian went shopping without taking them, and that Feng Jian only bought gifts for himself and did not bring them, so they were dissatisfied. Feng Jian was speechless. He had not expected the 2 of them. He wanted to agree to them, but there was only a little money left for food in his pocket, and he didn't know if he could satisfy them. Take them with you, old man Guji poked his head out of the tree house, since they are your future partners, you, Awuho. Before he could finish his words, the howling of wolves was heard in the forest not far away. Feng Jian squatted down and touched the bottom with one hand, in the same posture as when Guji used the perception technique, earth escape. The technique of sensing the ground. This is the perception technique learned from Grandpa Guja. Feng Jian, who has practiced earth escape hard, found it easy to get started with this perception technique, which uses the vibrations generated by movement and the vibrations transmitted by the ground. Through the interpretation of the vibration, there are wild beasts running towards this side in the forest a few hundred meters away. The steps of the first few are vigorous, but relatively scattered, they should be running away. The steps of the chasing ones behind are heavy, and every running is like a drum and a heavy hammer in Feng Jian's perception, clearly visible. With this frequency, the size and strength of the beasts should be not small. Tiger, wild boar, or bear. These are the only beasts that can threaten the wolf pack under Feng Jian's care. After all, the number of wolves is too small. Feng Jian jumped a few times and climbed up to the tree house, picked up his bow and arrow and was ready to shoot. No matter who came, if they attacked his friends, he had to help. The tree house was high up, which was a good place to attack with a bow and arrow. Sure enough, after a few breaths, the wolves rushed out of the forest. The wounded one-eye rushed out with a few of his brothers and headed straight for the cabin. The giant behind him was not walking fast, but it was moving like a mountain and trees, waiting for Feng Jian to see who was coming. He spat out a word of fuck. The bear, a silver-white giant bear, was more than 2 meters tall. The branches as thick as his arms and the vines all over the ground were like sticks of popcorn and elastic rubber ropes in front of him, breaking at the touch. The bloated body stood up and walked on its hind legs. All obstacles were no match for it under its strong front legs. 1 step was equivalent to 2 steps of an adult, which was why he could always keep up with the wolves even though his pace was not fast. Facing such a huge monster, Feng Jian even doubted whether the bow and arrow in his hand could cause any damage. The wolves reached the treehouse and found their leader, so instead of running away, they turned to fight. With a whistle, Feng Jian commanded the wolf pack to surround the giant bear, but they only surrounded it and did not attack. Such a giant bear was extremely powerful, and these few wolves would be killed if they went up to it. They could not watch the wolf pack die, so they had to fight and retreat, and fight with Feng Jian for some opportunities, but they could not fight to the death. In the past few years, the wolf pack has cooperated with Feng Jian to bully this and kill that in the forest. A tacit understanding has been developed between the two sides. With Feng Jian's command, the wolf pack immediately became orderly. He put an arrow on the longbow, and in order to kill with 1 strike, he changed the arrowhead to an armor-piercing cone made of fine iron. The light blue transparent chakras spread over it and wrapped the arrowhead. The longbow was like a full moon, and he just waited for the wolves to lure the giant bear to adjust its position so that he could kill it with 1 strike. The wolves kept pulling up and down, left and right, launching feint attacks from the side and back, not biting really, running away after a bite, or even retreating without biting. They did not seek to achieve anything, but only to achieve nothing, so as to consume the giant bear's strength. Bears are creatures that can stand upright, but this is not suitable for fighting. They will only stand upright when they need to work with their upper limbs, such as leaning against a tree to scratch an itch, dig honey, or catch fish. But this bear could stand upright to clear the road when chasing. Now facing the siege, its 4 limbs are completely empty, ready to deal with the wolves' attacks at any time. It has to be said that this bear is a bit abnormal. The wolves kept harassing the giant bear, but the wolves were playing dirty. They would not attack directly, but would attack from the spot. Now the giant bear had many bite wounds all over his body, but he was helpless. He slapped back the side attack again, and adjusted his position to face the leader of the wolf pack, One Eye. Even a wild beast has wisdom. He could tell that One Eye was the leader of the pack. He was tired of playing this game of back and forth, so he planned to focus on One Eye. As long as he killed One Eye, he would not take the other wolves seriously. Good opportunity. Feng Jian wanted this moment. At the moment when the giant bear turned around, the arrow in his hand that had been pulling the bow for a long time flew out. The arrow with wind attribute chakra was like a lightning with a faint light. The eyes could only barely catch the flight path of the arrow, and it instantly arrived at the giant bear's head. Feng Jian once read a book that said that when primitive bear hunting is carried out, they always find a fast-running person to act as bait to lure the bear to chase the person, and then the one being chased climbs up the tree. Bears hold strong grudges and will not let go of anyone who provokes them, so they will want to climb a tree to attack the person on the tree. Bears climbing on a tree will become extremely clumsy, and this is the best time to hunt bears. Ordinary weapons cannot cause fatal injuries to bears, but you can aim a long arrow at the bear's ear and shoot it in through the ear. At this time, the bear cannot dodge, and you can almost shoot at this place that is almost impossible to shoot without aiming. The long arrow penetrates the bear's brain and the bear will die in a few breaths. This is what Feng Jian used. With the blessing of wind attribute, there is no doubt that the long arrow has the ability to penetrate. Feng Jian has tried it specially. The long arrow with wind attribute can penetrate stones. The reason why he waited for the giant bear to turn around was to kill it with one shot. The giant bear is strong and huge. Even if the long arrow can penetrate its body, it may not kill it in a short time. Instead, it may completely anger it. In that case, the wolves surrounding it will be miserable. Feng Jian does not want this. The bowstring vibrated like thunder, and the long arrow flew out, and then it pierced through the giant bear's brain. The giant bear's head was like a plastic kettle, and the long arrow was like a red-hot iron rod, piercing through the kettle and stuck in the ground not far away. Most of the long arrow was sunk into the ground, smashing it. There was no blood spraying as imagined, and the brain was spilling everywhere. The long arrow pierced the brain and did not shatter the giant bear's head, but penetrated it. Because the speed was too fast, not much blood spilled. The giant bear seemed to be in a state of immobilization, and its entire body was motionless. Then a breeze blew, and the giant bear's body fell to the ground with a loud bang, like a collapsing cliff. Only then did blood begin to flow out. Chapter 18. Entering the mountain again. Kazama was very satisfied with his attack, whether it was the accuracy or the timing, it was fast, accurate and ruthless. Some Chunins would find it difficult to deal with this giant bear head-on, and Genins could hardly handle it, but Kazama actually killed it with one blow. It seems that he made the right choice to choose the bow and arrow as the main weapon. As expected, the bow and arrow is an elegant and deadly weapon. Guji watched the whole process from beginning to end without intervening. He wanted to test Feng Jian's training, but he didn't expect Feng Jian's attack to be so simple and unpretentious, killing the giant bear with one arrow. This scared Guji. He had planned to help Feng Jian if he couldn't handle it well, and he would laugh at Feng Jian. Guji felt a sense of loss that his plan had failed. Bow and arrow, wind attribute chakra, simple combination, actually produced unexpected power. Judging from the power of the arrow that killed the giant bear, it was at least as lethal as AC level ninjutsu. Considering the attack distance and the suddenness of the sudden attack, it was even more useful than AB level ninjutsu in some scenarios. What a powerful blow! The grandfather and grandson have been together for so long that Guji can see that Feng Jian's ninja talent is just average, even though he was born with 2 chakra attributes and successfully developed wind attribute chakra on his own. Over the past few decades, he has seen Konoha's geniuses grow up one after another, and then some of them fell, some sank, and some disappeared. Compared with them, Feng Jian's talent is not outstanding. Now, Kazama's ability to deal with Chunin-level beasts comes entirely from his brain. In Guji's opinion, Kazama's ideas are very different from those of ordinary ninjas. It is precisely these ideas that have created the current Kazama. Bows and arrows combined with chakra, whether it is bows and arrows or chakra, are not uncommon in the ninja world. So far, Guji has only found one Kazama who uses the two together. If nothing unexpected happens, bow and arrow ninjutsu will be Kazama's main attack direction in the future. What is this? This is almost the creation of a new and powerful ninja way. Guji suddenly felt that Feng Jian had grown to the point where he was on the side without realizing it. It has been a long time since the giant bear was killed. Except for Naruto, who occasionally complained that Kazama didn't ask for his help when he saw the huge bearskin in the tree house, no one paid attention to it. After all, the forest around Konoha is very large, and countless beast fights occur every day. If everyone paid attention, then Konoha would not have to do anything else. As long as the giant bear doesn't break into the village and hurt the villagers, it doesn't even deserve attention. It was a pity for Feng Jian. It would be great if he could train such a big bear. Feng Jian wanted to find a pet for combat. A giant bear with thick skin and flesh was very suitable. Last time he asked the old man for help, he only found Claw Taro and ended the task in a hurry. He didn't mean to dislike Claw Taro, but Claw Taro was good as a supporting summoning beast, but not good enough for combat. Feng Jian glanced at the two little ones who were half leaning against the shade of the tree and taking a nap. Alas, if you rely on the mountain will fall, if you rely on people will run away. The old man has said that since he can deal with a giant bear of the Chunin level, Kazama doesn't need help and can just play around in the forest. Don't look for him, an old man, because he has limited energy and needs to rest. Looking at the old man drinking his morning tea with relish and eating the snacks made by Feng Jian with Kai Bataro's nuts, Feng Jian shook his head and thought that it would be better not to disturb the old man from enjoying his life. After a busy life, he should support such a peaceful life. Grandpa, I plan to go into the mountains to look for the spiritual beast. Please take care of yourself. Feng Jian said to the old man while packing his things. Do you still want to go? The old man pondered for a few seconds and decided not to help. The child was grown up and it was time for him to take care of himself. Don't eat unfamiliar food, don't drink untreated water, and bring double the medicine. This is your first time going into the mountains alone, so don't expect to achieve anything great, but try to avoid making mistakes. Think about other things after you get familiar with it. I've taught you what to pay attention to in the forest, so just be careful yourself. Like an old nanny, the old man kept on talking and then watched Feng Jian leave. Summoning one eye again, this time Feng Jian decided to look for the giant bear's lair, maybe he could get something. Although bears are solitary animals, as long as he finds its habitat, it means that the climate and environment of that place are suitable for bears to survive, so will there be other bears around? It is very likely, and the giant bear has been dead for such a long time, his territory should be occupied by a new king. He dares to grab the territory, so he should have certain strength, which can be used as a reference for the summoning beast. Now, the more Kazama thinks about it, the more he feels at a loss. Why didn't he keep a trick up his sleeve? Why did he try to kill with one shot? Such a good main battle summoning beast was killed by his arrow in 1 second. What did he get except a bearskin and bear meat? If he kept it and trained it a little, Kazama felt that he could compete with the Chunin. The air in the forest is always damp and smells of decay, which is unpleasant and may even be poisonous. Feng Jian has long been accustomed to this. With the help of the one-eyed man, it took 2 days to easily find the giant bear's habitat. A bear's habitat actually covers a wide area, and the surrounding mountains can be his hunting area. When he came here, Feng Jian did not find the giant bear neighbors and latecomers he expected. As for the giant bear's lair, he did find it. It was a huge half-buried earth pit, on which was a big tree that had been growing for who knows how many years. The thick roots and developed root system protected the tree hole from collapse. There was nothing useful inside except the lingering smell of the beast. I saw a lot of wild animals. I have to say that the ninja world is different from the earth. Some creatures are obviously different from normal creatures, such as bison. They should live in the grassland, but they exist in the forest. For example, pangolins are the same size as sheep. Have you seen pangolins? Different colors of fur are considered minor differences. Do you believe it? After escaping from the pursuit of a group of monkeys again, Feng Jian sat down panting to rest. When picking a few fruits, he stepped on the monkeys' territory and was chased by monkeys. He wanted to shoot a few of them, but he thought it was better not to do so. It was not generous enough to argue with monkeys. In addition, the animals here are very aggressive. Even the monkey just now, although it looks cute, is actually very deadly when fighting. When it is the size of a fist, it makes a whizzing sound when thrown out, and Feng Jian's own shuriken is only of this level. In addition, the deeper you go into the forest, the more animals there are, and the stronger their territorial awareness is, and the territories of animals may overlap. It's okay if they overlap, they can live in harmony. But if an outsider like Kazama breaks in, he will have to face siege. Apart from the 2 days of traveling, Feng Jian stayed in the forest for a total of 3 days. He was exhausted physically and mentally. He was disturbed by snakes, insects, rats and ants at any time. If he was not careful, he would face the siege of wild beasts. He had to be careful to check whether the food he ate was poisonous. Feng Jian did not learn the sealing technique. He brought some food with him and got some from the wild. The food he brought with him would rot, and the food he got from the wild might be poisonous. Can you believe that some of the same creatures are poisonous and some are not? Anyway, Feng Jian has had diarrhea for a day, which slightly affects his physical strength, but not his combat ability. I don't know what he ate, or if it was because of the insect bite, which caused his body to react. Anyway, he has to go back. If he continues like this, Feng Jian will either be eaten by wild beasts or die from various diseases. Chapter 19. Sealing Technique. This solo forest trip was just as the old man said. Apart from getting familiar with the forest, we didn't achieve anything. Survival in the wilderness, survival in the forest, and strolling through the familiar forest like walking on the street every day are 3 different things. Because of the problem of vision, the jungle is generally more troublesome than the wilderness. The humid environment and complex ecology lead to the proliferation of bacteria and a complex food chain. All kinds of creatures that have been seen and not seen can survive here, which makes it particularly difficult for humans to survive here, even ninjas are no exception. This time, Feng Jian realized what he lacked. Strength? No. Exploration methods? No, it was the method of preserving food and materials, the ability to adapt to and distinguish the environment. Even under the guidance of the old man, Feng Jian thought he had learned well, but compared with the old man's life experience, it was still too little, too poor. It is so damn true that you only regret not having enough knowledge when you need it. Sealing techniques must be put on the agenda, whether it is to seal supplies, assist in combat, or prepare for the war in the later stages of the plot. Sealing techniques are a must. Feng Jian decided to take the path of long-range archery. This is the disadvantage of creating one's own path. There is no existing experience to refer to. How far you can go depends entirely on yourself. Feng Jian does not want to solve problems when they are discovered in the future. Treating the symptoms instead of the root cause is always a way to remedy the situation. It is difficult to make up for the losses that have been caused. In addition, if you cram at the last minute, Feng Jian may not be able to achieve the level that he is satisfied with. The character Tenten in the original work can be ranked as one of the 12 little strong men with all kinds of dazzling blades. If his seal scroll is removed, Feng Jian is sure that Tenten is at most a genin level. The seal scroll is almost a combination of a mobile warehouse and endless ammunition. Whether it is the former material storage or the latter ammunition supply, it is a great supplement for Feng Jian's bow and arrow. Others are still worried about not having enough arrows when shooting arrows, but Feng Jian directly arranges the seal scroll, which makes a huge difference. In addition, since he had decided to use long-range bows and arrows, this trip to the forest made Feng Jian discover another shortcoming, which was the ability to hide. Hiding in the dark and shooting an arrow at a critical moment was a sneak attack, which could kill with one shot. An open archery attack was a clear means. With the reaction of a ninja and the flying speed of the bow and arrow, there was a great chance that he could dodge it, not to mention all kinds of weird ninjutsu. So in order to maximize the power of bows and arrows, assassination-like sniper tactics were the most suitable for Feng Jian. And sniping is not only about shooting accurately with bows and arrows, but also about hiding one's body. What kind of sniper is a sniper who is discovered? Once discovered, the possibility of a sniper raid is lost. In the forest, the most sensitive are often the various wild animals. In the cruel survival environment of natural selection, each animal has its own survival philosophy. And Feng Jian's unobstructed intrusion is like turning on a light in the dark and shouting, "Come and hit me." It's no wonder that Feng Jian frequently encounters various wild animals in the forest. If Feng Jian can train his hiding ability to the extent that he is not noticed by wild animals, then such a lurking ability will definitely become a nightmare for the enemy. After all, when walking on the road, you don't know where a cold arrow will be shot. You can be prepared for a while, but not for a lifetime. The old man supports Kazama to learn all kinds of ninjutsu knowledge. If he learns more now, he will have more ability to deal with the battlefield in the future and more ability to save his life. The old man is so happy that he can't contain himself. The next day, he went out for half a day and came back with a large book more than 1 meter high. Let's learn it. After learning these, it means that you have entered the realm of sealing techniques. I don't know where the old man got it from, anyway, the old man has a wide network of contacts, so Kazama didn't ask. Immersed in books, Kazama in his previous life was not a top student, but he managed to graduate from college. When it comes to reading, he can still calm down. First, I spent 3 days picking out the main themes of a pile of books, and arranged them in order from easy to difficult, from beginning to end. I read them carefully in order. Since the sealing technique requires the support of basic knowledge, it must be a discipline with very strict logic and rules, so I have to spend time to figure out this context. The treehouse became Fengjian's retreat place. Except for practicing twice a day in the morning and evening, he spent the rest of his time swimming in the ocean of knowledge accompanied by large books. Why is the sealing technique difficult? In Fengjian's opinion, this is a comprehensive subject that combines Chinese, mathematics, foreign languages, chakra theory, and cartography. This is the knowledge that Fengjian has accumulated in his more than 10 years of study. He still feels pressured to interpret the sealing technique. With the importance that the ninja world attaches to knowledge, whether one can learn it really depends on talent. It is conceivable that the sealing technique is difficult to learn. At least, those who can learn the sealing technique are definitely smarter than most people. Fengjian has an average IQ, and the knowledge accumulated in his previous life was not used much in his previous life. In the ninja world, it actually played a significant role. Others may get stuck at a certain point in the sealing technique, because that part of the knowledge involves people's blind spots. But for Fengjian, it is more likely to have problems in interpretation. After all, the cultures of the two worlds are different. For example, in mathematics, people in the ninja world will never study functions or advanced mathematics. Even if they do, they can only master a small part of it and cannot apply it. Fengjian may have struggled with mathematics since elementary school, until calculus in college. Stand still, both of you, Fengjian instructed the two little ones. After studying for so long, he finally gained something, so Fengjian naturally wanted to show off. A series of light arrays, many runes appeared on the ground, with Fengjian as the apex, expanding outward in a cone, and soon covering the position where the two little ones were standing. The two little ones were about to move, but found that they were restricted to the spot and could not leave at all. There was nothing around, but they could not move their bodies. They could only stretch their arms and shake their heads, but could not leave the spot. The sealing technique on the ground was completed, and the two little ones were completely like birds in a cage, and even simple movement became a luxury. It's done, Fengjian smiled slightly. As expected, the sealing technique, the sealing technique, the sealing is the key. This series of light arrays seals the space where the two little ones are standing. When the technique is formed, it will form a fixed space according to the sealed object, just like a mold, a space that fits the sealed object completely. The two little ones can obviously control their bodies, but cannot move. This is the reason. Of course, this is only the most basic series of light arrays, and apart from control, it has no other functions. Moreover, it requires Kazama, the initiator, to always stay in the ritual to maintain the operation of the ritual, which has considerable limitations. However, it was a good thing that there were results, and there would be more results in the future. At least it showed that Fengjian's sealing technique was at the beginning. Chapter 20. Seal Scroll. After 3 months of hard study, the seal scroll that Fengjian had been dreaming of finally took shape. Of course, there are seal scrolls on the market, but they are very expensive. Unless you are rich, it is difficult to use them as regular ninja tools. If Fengjian succeeds in his research, even if he doesn't make a fortune on the market, at least he will realize the freedom of the seal scroll. Transparency. Fengjian's seal scroll was quickly drawn on the ordinary blank scroll he bought. After trying it, it was only the size of a fist. After sealing a handful of nuts, no more could be stuffed in. The first time it was made, it was okay and successful. The second time, the space was longer. This time it was a 1 meter square space, which was already enough to be sold. As a result, Fengjian put 2 bows and a bundle of arrows in it, and then it exploded directly, leaving a cubic space where space was annihilated, and then everything was gone, and the bows and arrows disappeared without a trace. Fengjian was shocked. After careful consideration, it was found that it might be to expand the space, which caused the rune power that stabilized the space to be weak, not enough to stabilize such a large space, resulting in the annihilation of the space. Fengjian was shocked. The space was annihilated. It was only possible with the 4-symbol seal in Danzo. Feng Jian seemed to have accidentally caused an accident. Don't think about it. This thing is dangerous and can't be played with. Losing 2 bows and a bundle of arrows is a small matter, but if someone is injured, it will be bad. It seems that you have to be careful when making it, and you have to leave room for it. Finally, Kazama chose to design multiple sealing rituals on a scroll. The space for each sealing ritual was not large. For example, the scroll with the word bow sealed several bows that Kazama often used. The largest one was the siege crossbow, which was used for ultra-long-range sniping. It was large in size, about the size of a double bed, and was mixed with auxiliary items such as pulleys, sights, and capstans. Because of its large size, it had to be sealed. Fortunately, as I became more familiar with the sealing technique, the sealing space was expanded and I was able to barely seal the disassembled sniper crossbow. Here, we have to mention the difficulty of making a sealing scroll. As long as you have mastered the art of sealing, you can make a sealing scroll. What determines the preciousness of the scroll is the sealing space and the number of times it can be used. The sealing space depends on your proficiency, and the number of times it can be used is determined by the material of the scroll. On the contrary, the skill of making scrolls is not precious in Konoha village, because making scrolls is not like other sealing techniques, which can be learned once you learn them. If a scroll does not exist, even a veteran will fail, and even a novice can succeed. In addition to technology, experience, luck, and materials are indispensable to support the success rate. With Feng Jian's technology, he can just use it himself. If he sells it, he will easily lose money. Siege crossbows have the longest attack distance, but their disadvantages are large size, slow firing speed, and relatively low accuracy. They cannot hit whatever you point at, because the crossbow arrows are large and can be fired at very long distances, which has too many influencing factors. This type of crossbow is suitable for bombarding large enemy formations during group combat, and does not pursue high accuracy, but only focuses on range and power. The second is the sniper crossbow, which is smaller in size, can be operated by one person, has a shooting range of about 1 kilometer, and is equipped with a winch and a scope. Its disadvantage is that the firing rate is slow, but it is enough for sniping. As for the commonly used ox horn bow and short knife, they are stored close to the body. After all, it takes time to take them from the sealed scroll. Carrying the ox horn bow and short knife close to the body allows them to be used at any time, which is suitable for rapid response combat. Prepare at least 2 of each bow in stock to avoid the situation where the weapon is damaged and there is no replacement. Feng Jian's long-range style is too dependent on weapons, so preparations must be made. The second thing is arrows. So far, the only arrows are wolf-tooth arrows for hunting, which are made of wild animal teeth and are cheap. There are also ordinary arrows with iron arrowheads, and finally 3-pointed cone-shaped armor-piercing arrows. Wolf-tooth arrows are rare, and they are more than enough for hunting. It is not known how they can be used against ninjas. They are considered as substitutes when arrows are insufficient. Ordinary arrows are in 10 bundles, about 1,000, and armor-piercing arrows are about 100, no more, no less. Regarding arrows, Feng Jian also had some new ideas. The above arrows were suitable for use in battle, but ninja battles were not necessarily all about killing. He attached great importance to the ability of the first series of lantern arrays to seal people. After all, he couldn't just kill people when he saw them. Feng Jian was not a killing god, so it was not appropriate to kill people when he saw them. In many cases, it was more useful to capture people alive than dead. An arrow is shot out, and when it hits the enemy, the sealing technique is activated, directly sealing the person, which is equivalent to a long-range seal. What a great idea, the name is already chosen, it is called the binding arrow. There are also explosive arrows with detonating symbols attached to the arrowheads, hollow arrow shafts with poisonous gas or smoke, and smoke arrows. You have to prepare some of these. After everything was ready, Feng Jian's wallet was shrunk by half, but there were still 2 people who were not satisfied. Kai Batter and Tsumugatar raised their paws to protest that they didn't buy them gifts last time, and they wanted to get away with it this time. They disagreed, and they firmly disagreed. They almost asked the old man to judge. But Feng Jian's wallet was empty, and there was no money, so what could he do? After thinking about it for a long time, he decided to make something for them. The key point was that even if Feng Jian bought something, they were 2 different kinds of animals. Would human things be suitable for them? He still had to spend money to customize it. Thinking of the money spent on customization, the poor Feng Jian decisively gave up and made it for them himself. The result came out soon. Kai Batare's crossbow was a foot-long small crossbow. Considering Kai Batare's small stature and weak strength, a winch was installed to make up for Kai Batare's lack of combat power. Claw Taro liked it very much. He had seen Feng Jian shoot arrows every day. He was there when he saw the giant bear being shot through with one arrow. When Feng Jian took out a crossbow that could improve his combat power, his eyes almost popped out of stars. He immediately held it in his hands and began to tinker with it, stringing it and then firing it. The crossbow arrow hit the tree trunk, making a trembling sound. Kai Batter jumped happily on the spot. Then there is Claw Taro. Since it is called Claw Taro, it cannot be inappropriate. The waist kunao is directly modified, burned red and bent into the shape of claw blades, and then iron rings are welded on them so that the iron rings can be put on Claw Taro's claws. In order to make it look good, 5 of them are even made, connected to each other, and put on Claw Taro's claws, which is a pair of Wolverine's iron claws. Now Claw Taro is really worthy of the name. The iron claws in the shape of claw blades make up for the problem that Claw Taro's claws are too short and not strong enough. Claw Taro finally feels like a combat-type summoning beast. Feng Jian also creatively added a several-meter-long iron chain as thick as a little finger, so that the iron claws can be thrown out and used as flying claws when necessary. Just when the 2 little ones got their new toys and were just starting to play, the wolf pack that Feng Jian had been thinking about finally received good news. A new member joined. Feng Jian hurried to help. Why didn't they ask for his help when the wolf was about to give birth? Giving birth in the wild is still very dangerous for a female wolf. The result was far beyond what Feng Jian expected. It was not that the female wolf gave birth to cubs, but that new wolves joined the pack. One Eye, who was in the posture of a wolf king, faced another small group of wolves while patrolling the territory. With the strong body raised by Feng Jian's sufficient food, he frightened the leader of the other pack and became the new wolf king. The wolf pack increased to more than a dozen at once. Well, it was still not a large-scale wolf pack, but its strength increased greatly. The one-eyed man has been following Feng Jian for so long that his vision and wisdom have greatly increased. He notified Feng Jian to recognize the person, no, the wolf. More than a dozen wolves stared at Feng Jian with burning eyes. Feng Jian still felt cold in his heart, but he couldn't retreat. If he retreated at this time, Feng Jian's position in the wolf pack would be in jeopardy. Even if One Eye was the wolf king, he couldn't take care of his weak brothers. In other words, the strong are respected in the wolf pack. If you want to have a position in the wolf tribe, you must have strength. If Feng Jian retreated, it would mean he was afraid that the wolves would come forward to provoke him immediately. Feng Jian suppressed his panic and walked slowly to the one-eyed wolf. Now the one-eyed wolf was the wolf king of a pack of wolves, and he could no longer play like before. The wolf king had the dignity of a wolf king. Feng Jian put the one-eyed wolf on an equal footing. A woohoo, the one-eyed man howled, and the female wolf in the wolf pack brought over a few wolf cubs, meaning to let Feng Jian see them. The one-eyed man knew that Feng Jian was looking for a talented wolf to serve as a summoning beast. He was once this choice, but one of them did not awaken the chakra, so he was not chosen. In order to repay Feng Jian, he let Feng Jian choose. Several wolf cubs have opened their eyes and are able to crawl around. It is obvious that the wolf pack had a hard life before, and several of them look weak and listless. Chapter 21. Inyazuka Family. One Eye was originally Kazama's goal, to develop into a ninja beast like the Inyazuka family's ninja dog, but unfortunately, One Eye had not awakened his chakra, and secondly, the Wolf King was relatively aloof and unwilling to stay with Kazama for a long time. A man and a beast could be friends, but not partners. Any beast that spends too much time with humans will find it difficult to adapt to life in the wild. One Eye was very nice and understood Feng Jian's thoughts. As soon as a new partner joined, he immediately called Feng Jian to recognize the wolf. Fortunately, the 3 wolf cubs may actually awaken their chakras, or at least have a much higher chance than the one-eyed one. I want to take them all with me, can I? Ouch, ouch. So willing. Ow. Hiss, you are really stingy. They are not your children, right? That's perfect, so you don't have to bite them to death if you don't like them. The wolf cubs were not actually One Eye's children, but the previous Wolf King. The Wolf King was defeated, and according to the laws of nature, these wolf cubs would either be bitten to death or driven out of the wolf pack. This was perfect, as it not only eliminated One Eye's troubles, but also solved Kazama's ninja beast problem. After bidding farewell to the complacent one-eyed man, Feng Jian returned to the treehouse and looked at the 3 wolf cubs who were eating voraciously. Now he had to solve the problem of the wolf cubs' awakening chakra. After thinking about it, I realized that the way humans awaken may not be suitable for wolf cubs, and their minds cannot understand what humans create. And communication is also a problem. Finally, Kazama gave up his isolation. When in doubt, he could ask Old Man Guja. For Kazama, as he grew up, he no longer needed the old man to look after him all the time. Old Man Guja had changed from taking care of him to an encyclopedia of ninja knowledge. I want to train my wolf cub to become a ninja beast. What should I do? Go straight to the point. There is no need to be polite with the old man. Gataru and Tsurutaro aren't enough. Of course, the more helpers the better. The old man was silent. There was a trend of more and more livestock in the tree house. Would it become a zoo in the end? Forget it. My grandson had his own ideas. Suppressing the complaints in his heart, the old man gave a hint. In Konoha village, the only people who can use ninja beasts are the Inyazuka clan. You can go ask them. I won't help you this time. You need to go by yourself. Is the old man going to let it go? No, Grandpa, I'm not familiar with the Inyazuka clan. I'm afraid I'll be driven out before I even meet the master. I beg you to go with me. Kazama immediately made a bitter face and asked the old man for help. What a joke, a student who hasn't graduated from the ninja school, how can he ask for the secret technique from the family? This is almost a core issue. If Kazama dares to bring it up, the Inyazuka will dare to kill him. No matter how stubborn old man Guji was, he couldn't stand Feng Jian's crying, making a fuss and antics, and finally agreed. The 2 men walked into the Inyazuka family. Well, it was worthy of the Inyazuka family. As soon as they approached, they were blocked by several large dogs, and there were others watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Please tell the other party that Genin Maru Hashijiro wants to see the chief of the Inyazuka clan, Guja said politely to the roadblock. The leader woofed, turned around and walked away. The other dogs surrounded the grandfather and grandson and refused to move. These are all ninja beasts raised by the Inyazuka clan. Some are descendants of active ninja beasts, and some are retired ninja beasts. Don't underestimate them. The 2 of them were fine, and the old man explained to Kazama. Wow, Feng Jian's eyes lit up. Feng Jian really liked pets. In his previous life, he had cats and dogs around him all the time. There were always 1 or 2 furry kids around him to accompany him through the boring time in the rental house. Can I touch you? Feng Jian took out a piece of barbecue in a friendly manner and handed it to one of the big dogs in front. It was a golden retriever with a tall and strong body. Even when squatting, it was only a little shorter than Feng Jian. It was definitely a large dog. Woof woof, the big dog looked at Feng Jian with contempt and ignored him. Don't be so stingy. Feng Jian took out a larger piece of meat with bones in a friendly manner and stared into the golden retriever's eyes, hoping to see some information he wanted to see from it. Sure enough, no dog can refuse a bone with meat on it, so if there is one, just change to a bigger one. Let me touch it, and he's yours. He raised the meaty bone and stroked it across the golden retriever's nose. Sure enough, the golden retriever's nostrils widened and it sniffed hard. It seems that meat with bones is quite attractive to dogs, and what Feng Jian saw was a play. Woof woof woof, oh my god, this golden retriever is very strong-willed. It only eats food fed by its owner. This is what a golden retriever means. It seems that he has to use a big move. Feng Jian took out the 3 wolf cubs wrapped in his arms, and then tore off some meat strips from the bone meat and fed them to the wolf cubs little by little. Now the wolf cubs are still a little small for meat, so they can eat some meat strips as a supplement. The key is to seduce the golden retriever and make him dare to refuse my touch. Ever since Feng Jian took out the wolf cub, almost all the dogs' eyes were focused on Feng Jian. From the moment Feng Jian appeared here, their sensitive noses told them that there were wild creatures of their kind intruding. In the world of dogs, they were only loyal to their masters, and any creature that wanted to intrude into their territory, even if it was of the same kind, would be expelled. It just so happened that Feng Jian's 3 wolf cubs were also among them. Although wolves and dogs are of the same species, they have evolved into different creatures after years of evolution. In the eyes of dogs, wolf cubs are the offspring of wild dogs without owners, and they must be bitten to death or driven away. It's Grandpa Guji, please come in. Go do what you should do. Why are you surrounding the guests? I never see you so active usually. You must have taken the wrong medicine today. The person who came was a girl, about 11 or 12 years old, with a loud voice and a generous temperament. Oh, it's Xia Hua. Don't you have any mission to carry out today? Guji greeted with a smile. I just came back yesterday and I'm taking a break today. This little brother is. This is my grandson, Mariboshi Kazama. Hello. Hello, Sister Hua, I'm Mariboshi Kazama. At this time, you have to be sweet-mouthed. Hua, Xia Hua? Inyazuka Hana? This can't be Inyazuka Kaiba's sister. Wow, what a cute little brother. Inyazuka Hana praised. Fengjian wanted to complain about this. Little brother, this is not a nice word, big sister. Mother is already waiting in the reception room. Please follow me. Inyazuka Hana wasted no time and brought the old and the child to the reception room. Long time no see, little Claw. Long time no see, Uncle Guja. Uncle Guji, why did you come to see me so formally today? I wonder what's the important matter. The person that Guja had asked to see before was the chief of the Inyazuka family, which meant they wanted to have a formal meeting. At this time, Inyazuka Tsumuji was a member of the Inyazuka family, not a friend of old man Guja. You say it, said old man Guji. Fengjian wanted to go forward and punch the old man. Why did you back down at such a critical moment? Seeing everyone's eyes suddenly focused on him, Fengjian knew that there was no way to retreat. He stepped forward and sorted out his thoughts before starting his own journey of deception. This is what I am doing. I plan to tame a few ninja beasts, but the ninja beasts have not awakened their chakras, so I would like to ask the Inyazuka clan leader about the issue of awakening the chakras of ninja beasts. The question was made clear, and everyone's eyes turned from Kazama to the old man. When the old man nodded in response, the atmosphere in the room became solemn. After a long silence, the head of the Inyazuka clan, Inyazuka Tsum, finally spoke. The Inyazuka family does have a method to help ninja beasts awaken their chakra, but what do you want in exchange? Chapter 22. Exchange. Since the old man gave the right to speak to the kid in front of him, Inyazuka Tsumuji wanted to tease the kid. With her friendship with the old man, training a few dogs was almost a piece of cake. But the old man never asked for help, so they could only keep it in mind. This time the old man obviously invited her to come and return a favor, so she could still make the decision. In their generation, how many people had not carried out missions with old man Guja and received his care? She wanted to test the boy in front of her to see if he had the qualifications to deserve the old man to do her a favor. I'll exchange an idea for it, an idea that's suitable for the Inyazuka family, okay? Kazama gritted his teeth and decided to come up with something practical. Thanks to the fact that he liked to think about things when he had nothing to do in his previous life, and imagined all kinds of people and things in the Naruto world, combined with the imagination of various fan fictions, he really had an idea. Ideas? What ideas are so valuable that they can be exchanged for the method of awakening chakra of my Inyazuka clan? Inyazuka Claw had a look of disdain on his face, like a little kid, speaking in a rather arrogant tone. The Inyazuka family is named after dogs, and the ninja world knows that the Inyazuka family is good at training ninja dogs. This is a secret method created by the ancestors of the Inyazuka family, which laid the foundation for the Inyazuka family. But in my opinion, you younger generations are somewhat just getting by and have no ambition to make progress. Fengjian could naturally see Inyazuka Claw's ridicule, and what he could not stand the most was this kind of groundless ridicule. You haven't even heard my thoughts, but you start to ridicule me. I owe you. How dare you slander my Inyazuka clan? Inyazuka Claw was also surprised. He didn't expect this kid to be so arrogant. He started with a map cannon and cursed the entire Inyazuka clan. Am I wrong? The Inyazuka clan has been passed down for so long, I wonder if you have any innovations. Isn't it still the same old trick of human-dog combined attack? Is there anything new? Has a cage-level strongman appeared? Shut up, boy, you are irritating me. Tell me your method. If you are satisfied, I will teach you how to awaken the chakra of ninja beasts, and forgive you for your careless words. Otherwise, you will probably suffer today. Inyazuka Tsum couldn't let Kazama continue talking. He was afraid that he would not be able to help but slap his stinky mouth to death. You're pretty impatient. Fengjian likes this kind of hot temper. When you get angry, you lose your mind, or at least lose a certain rationality, and your thinking will have loopholes. If there are loopholes, there will be weaknesses. Isn't this the easiest to target? However, the person in front of him is Inyazuka-tsum, and he can't be treated as an enemy. Okay, let me put it another way. The ancestors of the Inyazuka family have already paved the way, but unfortunately the descendants did not expand on it and have been repeating the old path of their ancestors. As a result, the Inyazuka family always has this or that limitation and cannot reach the top. Kazama's statement was not groundless, but the answer he got after careful thought. Is this what you think? Inyazuka-tsum clenched his fists tightly, ready to attack the next moment. When playing ranged combat, good eyesight is the most important thing. Inyazuka Claw is clearly on the verge of exploding, so it's better not to continue to provoke him. He quickly tells him everything. Am I wrong? The ancestor of the entire tribe created the path of human-dog combined attack. It's not wrong for you to follow the path he created, but you shouldn't restrict it too much. Are all Inyazuka people suitable for this path? I don't believe it. People's talents vary greatly. It's impossible for everyone's talents to be suitable for this path. But you require all members of the tribe to follow this path. Isn't this killing the path? It also blocks the talents of your people. Humph, I thought you were going to say something shocking. That's it. Do you think we don't know that a large part of our clan members are not suitable for the path of human-dog joint attack? But there is no other way. We are the Inyazuka clan, and this is our heritage. Do we have to give up such a heritage and choose the path of a ninja with nothing? That's narrow-minded, isn't it? No one is stopping you from playing the ninja dog style, but why must you use the ninja dog style? Can't you use the ninja eagle style, the ninja tiger style, or even the ninja snake style? Isn't this the same idea as the ninja dog style created by your ancestors? Why haven't you tried it at all? I can understand that people have limited energy and can only choose one type of ninja beast to train, but when it is obvious that many tribesmen are not suitable, why don't you support them to create something? Ninja dogs are not actually that advantageous among all the ninja beasts. Why hasn't anyone thought of training other ninja beasts? Is it that difficult? People are like this, when they don't think of a way out, they always feel that there is no way to go. Once their minds are opened up, their associative ability will extend to many ideas. Yes, we can obviously copy others, why didn't anyone think of it? Our ancestors could open up a path, but we, the descendants, never thought of exploring it. Feng Jian's words made everyone present fall silent and began to think about their own path. When did they stop thinking and only wanted to follow the path of their ancestors? Old man Guji, who had been silent until now, looked at the people in the reception room with a smile. What is talent? This is it. His grandson's talent is not the ninja talent that ordinary people understand, but a very different thinking from ordinary people. This kind of person is most suitable for this kind of theoretical development. It is indeed right to bring Kazama here today. Although he can also get the method of activating chakra of ninja beasts with his old face, it is not as good as what Kazama got himself. The key is that Kazama can leave a deep impression in the heart of the head of the Inyazuka family, which is very important. If it were in the past, he would be alone and wouldn't know when he would die on the battlefield, so of course he wouldn't need to pay attention to these things. But now that he has a grandson, he feels that he has a lot of things to take care of. He likes this feeling of being fulfilled and needed. Boy, I admit that you are right. We are indeed a little complacent. Your ideas are enough to exchange for the method of awakening the chakra of our Inyazuka family's ninja beasts. However, I hate your mouth. Now, immediately, get out of here. I don't want to see your face. Inyazuka Claw grinned. The feeling of being scolded in the face and having to accept it made him feel aggrieved and wanted to vent. As for Kazama, who caused this situation, he hated him no matter how he looked at him, so he directly ordered him to leave. I'll leave right away. Feng Jian followed suit. He was still a student and didn't like being beaten, never at any time. That's why Feng Jian chose long-range weapons. He was afraid of pain and being beaten. Grandpa Kasuk, please give us your guidance in the future. When the grandfather and grandson walked out of the room, Inyazuka Tsumuji suddenly stood up and bowed deeply. Obviously, in her opinion, Kazama's proposal was made by the old man unintentionally, and Kazama was just the one who spoke on behalf of the old man. Most of the credit should be attributed to the old man. As for Kazama, those 10 little bastards should get out of here as far as possible. Chapter 23. Big Wolf. After being kicked out, Kazama thought that the trade fair was over. But the next day, Inyazuka Kaiba, who had dog tooth paint on his face, and Naruto came to the treehouse noisily. "Brother Kazama, I told him I come here often, but Kaiba didn't believe me and said I was bragging." Naruto was indignant and went to complain to Kazama. "You two really know each other? Hey, it's because you always brag and play pranks that people don't believe you." Ye was also stunned. He didn't expect that Kazama and Naruto really knew each other. Instead, it was he who saw Kazama for the first time today. "Okay, kids, stop quarreling. If you have the energy, why not practice cultivation? It's really boring and annoying when kids quarrel." "Brother Kazama, what are we having today?" Naruto usually comes here when he is hungry or has spent all his pocket money, so he comes here to beg for money. This place is too remote and not crowded, and Naruto likes to be in a lively place, so he can't stay here. The key point is that after entering the ninja school, the various families in Konoha are not so hostile to Naruto, which leads to Naruto's tendency to make friends. How can Naruto, who is always in the limelight, not go crazy? "Let's go look for it in the woods and eat whatever we find." He wanted to order some dishes, but he was overthinking it. "You can't just eat whatever game you want." "Who are you?" Feng Jian asked knowingly. "Hello, my name is Inyazuka Kaiba, and I'm from the Inyazuka clan. My mother asked me to teach Brother Kazama how to train ninja beasts." "Very good, the meaning is very clear." Inyazuka Kaiba was sent by the Inyazuka clan to provide guidance. It seems that yesterday's transaction took effect. Training ninja beasts. Naruto's head was spinning. "Yes, train those 3 wolf cubs." Feng Jian pointed at the 3 wolf cubs who were basking in the sun and were being watched closely by the 2 little ones. "Oh, I know this." Naruto took an arrogant step and picked up a wolf cub. "Learn from me, woof woof. Hey, don't sleep, learn first, woof woof." Kazama and Kaiba sighed at the same time. Sometimes they wanted to tear Naruto's brain apart to see what it was made of. How could it be so pure? "Naruto, let's go hunting." "Coming." "Yay, come together." The 3 of them are students of the ninja school. Kazama is 2 years older than them and he brought 2 younger ones with him. Kaiba is in charge of tracking. It must be said that even though he has just started school for a short time, Kaiba's nose already looks like a humanoid ninja dog. As for Naruto, apart from bluffing, he is only suitable for carrying things. Soon, with Kaiba's tracking, Feng Jian shot 2 arrows and got 2 pheasants, a few eggs, and a rabbit, enough for the 3 of them. Naruto did nothing and was mocked by Kaiba, who shouted that he wanted to go catch fish. Feng Jian let him go. Drinking some fish soup is not a bad thing. There was no wine, but after a full meal, Feng Jian officially began to learn the method of awakening the chakra of the ninja beasts. Through Kaiba's description, Feng Jian felt cheated. The so-called awakening chakra of the ninja beasts is actually a guiding method, guiding the awakening chakra of the ninja beasts. Through targeted training, the coordination of medicines and certain communication, it is possible to awaken the chakra. From the perspective of chakra theory, chakra is a combination of spiritual energy and physical energy, and the chakra of ninja beasts is no exception. Moreover, the physique of ninja beasts is much stronger than that of humans. With a little training, their physical energy is very abundant. The reason why the awakening rate of wild beasts is not high is actually mainly due to the lack of spiritual energy. As for wild beasts, we cannot expect them to have high intelligence, and the same is true for their spiritual energy. Therefore, wild beasts that can awaken chakra in the wild often have intelligence that is not inferior to that of humans, because only in this way can they have enough spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is an accessory to wisdom and is not equal to wisdom. However, intelligent creatures must have strong spiritual energy. The secret medicine of the Inyazuka family is a mind-stimulating drug that can strengthen the mind by controlling the changes in the dosage. With human guidance and training, it can greatly enhance the wisdom of ninja beasts and greatly increase their mental energy. The 3 little wolf cubs are still confused. Eating and sleeping take up most of their day. The rest of the time, under the leadership of Kaibataro and Clawtaro, they play and fight wildly. They have no idea that they have been put on the training schedule by Kazama. Kaiba's Akamaru had just awakened his chakra not long ago, and now was the time to train the human dog tacit understanding. An environment with many people was not suitable, so he simply lived in the tree house. The Inyazuka family didn't even send someone to visit, they were really generous. Akamaru is a little Karami now, but there are 3 smaller ones than him. With Kaibataru's translation, he can finally communicate with the 3 little wolf cubs. Eating, sleeping, training, and playing tricks are the daily routines of the three wolf cubs. To be frank, training is just running, sniffing, and playing around. Later, Feng Jian saw that the effect was limited, so he added some things from the police dog training. After a few days, both the man and the wolf were exhausted. After all, the man had to follow the wolf cubs, otherwise they would easily run off the track. They were so small and furry, and he couldn't bear to scold them. He wanted them to eat more food, not to mention skimping on it, so he could only follow them all the way. After half a month, the three wolf cubs had grown significantly bigger. Akamaru was small and sandwiched in the middle, and he was no longer dominant. In addition, the wolf cubs were lively and active, and Akamaru was a little overwhelmed. Kaibatter couldn't bear to see his younger brother being bullied, so he joined the battle. Clotar also wanted to join, but unfortunately he was too big compared to the wolf cubs, so he was excluded by Kazama and could only applaud. Kaiba was not happy with his own Akamaru being bullied, even though he couldn't participate, he was still cheering and encouraging him, hoping to come up with some tricks. Kaibataro was smart, he was not at a disadvantage in a one-on-two fight, he didn't hurt the wolf cub, and he even made the wolf cub run around in circles. The wolf cubs were tough. If they couldn't win the fight once, they would stand up and fight again. As time went on, they became anxious and kept growling. The three wolf cubs were enraged and their blood began to awaken. They attacked more and more fiercely, biting, charging, and clawing. All the things they learned in training during this period became their nourishment, which was reflected in this fight. The only bad thing was that the wolf cub seemed to be really angry, his glasses turned red, and he chased after Kaibatter and bit him regardless of anything, because Kaibatter had been playing tricks on them again and again. Suddenly, the speed of one of the wolf cubs increased significantly, and it stood out from the other three wolf cubs. It bit the tail of Yataro who was walking his dog in front. There was no way, this tail was the most hateful, it was swaying in front of them and provoking their anger. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Yataro was very anxious. Even though the wolf cub was a young cub, it was almost as heavy as Yataro in terms of weight. When its tail was bitten, its speed slowed down greatly. The other two wolf cubs immediately surrounded him and were about to bite Yataro. As the first ninja beast to be subdued, Kaibattaro was not only smart but also had the ability of illusion. In a hurry, he activated the illusion and two of the three wolf cubs immediately fell into the illusion and stood there in a daze. The wolf cub biting Kaibattara's tail shook his head nonchalantly to dissolve the illusion, and was almost unaffected. Under normal circumstances, Kaibatter would have fought hard if his tail was bitten, but now he was just a wolf cub, whose teeth had just grown, and he turned around and slapped Kaibatter twice without hesitation, and his shadowless punch left an after-image. The wolf cub's face was attacked, and he subconsciously closed his eyes and retreated, subconsciously releasing the force in his mouth, and Kaibatter broke free in an instant, and immediately ran up the tree to avoid it. Feng Jian immediately went forward to check on the wolf cub and found that Kaibatter was very measured and did not hurt the wolf cub. The key point was that the wolf cub was not affected by Kaibatter's illusion, which meant that the awakening of chakra was successful. The other two seemed to be a little worse, but one has already awakened successfully. Feng Jian is not in a hurry. He will train them step by step. If they can awaken, that would be the best. If not, just train them as guard wolves. What should this wolf cub be called? Big Grey Wolf, because the wolf cub looks grey and quite appropriate. Chapter 24. Wolves are social animals. When one of them learns something new, other members will learn it quickly. Because Grey Wolf has learned chakra, he is immune to the effects of Kaibattaro's illusion. Also because of chakra, Grey Wolf's training is much better in the next few days. After all, if chakra is not used to perform ninjutsu, it is very obvious to strengthen the basic abilities of the body. Haven't you seen ninjas flying and hiding in the sky? Ordinary people may fall down even if they run. This is the role of chakra. The other two wolves followed suit, and they really achieved something. After a week, they awakened their chakras one after another. The surprise came suddenly. Originally, they thought that only Grey Wolf would become his ninja beast, but now it was a triple surprise. The only drawback is that Feng Jian has been thinking about names for a long time and there are not enough names. Grey Wolf is a name that has been thought of for a long time, and the other female wolf is also a good choice, Red Wolf, which is suitable. What about the remaining wolf? After thinking for a long time, I decided to just use Black Wolf. They were born as wild wolves anyway, so they would be neither black nor grey when they grow up. It makes sense if there is already Grey Wolf, then there will be Black Wolf. The 3 wolf cubs also joined the contract smoothly and became a member of Kazama's summoning beast army. Naruto and Kaiba could only drool with envy. Kaiba was a little better because he had Akamaru to make up for it. Naruto was miserable. He was still on welfare. If he really raised him, he would be raised to death. The 3 wolf cubs have awakened successfully, and the rest is training, how to cooperate, how to raid, how to listen to orders. All of these need to be trained, and the hunter flow is well played, and there is the intention of changing to a tamer. There is no other way. This is not a game where you can use the ninja beasts just by catching them. The ninja beasts here are all living beings. They not only have their own wisdom, but they cannot be resurrected after death. Feng Jian dare not use them as consumables. So training, a lot of training, is necessary. Then there were constant problems, and I kept discovering and solving them. The running-in period was indeed very tedious and tiring. I really wanted to lie down and rest for a while, but the 5 little ones were all running forward. Could Feng Jian, the master, lie down? I couldn't do it. I couldn't bear to see it. Anyway, you are willing to train, even if I have to lie down, I have to accompany you, Feng Jian silently swore. As the training deepened, a long-hidden problem emerged, which was still a problem that Feng Jian could not solve in a short time, that is, communication. Facing a complex environment and people's cunning minds, Feng Jian's way of controlling the combat of the ninja beast group, command and communication became very important. It doesn't matter on the training ground, you can yell with your voice, but in actual use, you can't yell all the time, wouldn't that expose yourself, and the tactics will be leaked. But if you don't yell, the ninja beasts can still understand simple coordination, but what about complex coordination? No matter how smart the ninja beasts are, they are not human and cannot fully understand human behavior, even if they have human IQ. There may be coordination errors when several people cooperate, let alone ninja beasts. Feng Jian is now envious of the remote communication secrets of the Yamanaka family among the 3 families of Ino, Shika, and Cho. After learning this, Feng Jian can communicate with ninja beasts remotely without restrictions, and there is no danger of being exposed. It is really perfect. The successful deal with the Inyazuka family was due to the old man's face and the seemingly plausible pioneering ideas that he proposed. Now he wants to covet the secret techniques of the Yamanaka family. What should he do? According to the analysis of the original plot, Yamanaka Ino only learned this communication ability in the later period. Whether it was developed by him himself or the secret technique of the Yamanaka family, it can be said to be a very core content. If you want to replicate such a transaction with the Inyazuka family, it may not be easy. Giving up is not Feng Jian's style. Since he has set his mind on it, he will not give up without hitting the wall a few times. Feng Jian will first ask the old man for advice. You want the Yamanaka clan's ninjutsu that allows for long-distance communication. The old man frowned, as if he was thinking about something. As far as I know, although the Yamanaka clan is good at perception, they don't seem to have the long-distance communication ninjutsu you mentioned. How do you know that the Yamanaka clan has this secret technique? The old man asked curiously. The Yamanaka clan's ninjutsu is unique. He has cooperated with many members of the Yamanaka clan in missions, but he has never heard of this kind of ninjutsu. It's hard to respond to this, so I can only make up some excuse to get away with it. Naruto, this freeloader, is getting more and more popular. Last time he brought you with him, and this time he brought 3 more people. It seems like he is treating the treehouse as a buffet without having to pay. If the people who came weren't all children, Feng Jian really wouldn't want to serve him, but after he introduced himself, Feng Jian's attitude changed drastically. Hello, I'm Yamanaka Ino. Sorry to bother you. Hello, I'm Nara Shikamaru. Hello, I'm Koji Akimichi. The new generation of doll versions of Ino, Deer, and Joe are all together. Naruto really has a wide range of friends. It is also easier for extroverts to make friends, let alone someone like Naruto who is extroverted and heartless. Even if we can't become friends with him, at least it's hard to hate him, unless you look at him with tinted glasses. Kazama used his best skills, barbecue, hot pot, and hand-squeezed juice to feed the 3 insects, Ino, Deer, and Butterfly, and Naruto was considered a meal partner. Ino, let me ask you a question. Does your family have any ninjutsu that allows long-distance communication? It's similar to radio, but the range is longer. Kazama revealed his true intentions and began to ask indirect questions. At this time, she was still a young girl and had no sense of confidentiality. She would answer any questions as long as they did not involve the core of the secret technique. "Why are you asking this?" Shikamaru asked back with complicated thoughts. Feng Jian had no intention of hiding anything. These were his future strong men. To build a good relationship, sincerity was the first priority. Feng Jian clapped his hands and said, "Spiritual summoning technique." The 5 little ones scattered around were immediately summoned to his side by Feng Jian. "For their sake, I am not good at ninjutsu. In future battles, I will be able to rely more on summoned beasts. You know, whether it is people or animals, the most difficult thing when there are too many of them is coordination. If I can learn or create the kind of long-distance communication ninjutsu I just mentioned, then there will be no loopholes in communication. There will be no leaks to the enemy, and coordination will achieve twice the result with half the effort." "Wow, what a cute dog, what a cute little bear, what a cute little squirrel." Ino's eyes sparkled. She was already immersed in the cute atmosphere exuded by the furry children and couldn't extricate herself. "That is a wolf cub." Naruto was also envious, but unfortunately he couldn't afford to raise it. He could only try to secretly destroy Ino's mentality, but was ignored. "I see." Shikamaru got his own answer and didn't ask any more questions. "Shikamaru, delicious, delicious." He danced with his chopsticks, eating one portion after another of the rich hot pot, almost turning it into a clear soup pot. Chapter 25. The plan failed. Feng Jian thought that inviting the 3 little ones, Ino, Deer, and Butterfly, to dinner was at most a friendly exchange between good friends. Unexpectedly, a few days later, Feng Jian and Old Man Guja actually received a formal invitation from the Yamanaka family. The old man was confused, and Feng Jian was also full of questions. Forget it, it was a big Konoha family's treat, which was already a huge honor. The grandfather and grandson had all their wealth on them, so there was nothing to calculate. Go decisively. The two came to the Yamanaka clan's land. It must be said that even though the Yamanaka clan does not regard itself as a fist in this fist-oriented ninja world, it can still get to this point. It is indeed unique. There are not many people in the Yamanaka clan, and the living environment is relatively open. It is not luxurious, but it is a spacious courtyard, which is much better than the treehouse where Feng Jian lives. There are also various flowers and plants in the courtyard, which are decorated with the fragrance of flowers. It seems that the wife of the head of the Yamanaka family runs a flower shop. "Welcome Grandpa Guja and brother Feng Jian to my home." Little Ino was very quiet in front to greet the guests today. "Oh, it's Xiao Ino. Here, honeysuckle tea. Girls will become prettier if they drink it." Feng Jian didn't know how to give gifts, and the old man had nothing, so he could only give some flower tea that he had collected. Feng Jian made this specially because he had a sore throat after eating barbecue. "Welcome Grandpa Guja." Yamanaka Inoichi also came out to greet the guest. The title here needs to be explained. Ino called the old man Grandpa, which is a respectful title for the younger generation to the older people. It is really that the seniority is not important. And Yamanaka Inoichi, seeing Guja who is of the same generation as the third Hokage, has to address him as Grandpa? Nonsense, I don't understand the customs in Japan, and I don't want to understand, so I just explain it casually, just go with it, that's it. The politeness was especially so here, as a member of the entourage, Kazama looked awkward, and it was really uncomfortable to say polite words back and forth. Finally, we sat down to eat with relish, and those who know Japanese cuisine will understand. Anyway, after a few bites, Kazama had to eat more when he returned. After the meal, tea was served, the atmosphere gradually became harmonious, and it was time to get down to business. "Grandpa Guja, actually I invited you and Feng Jian here today mainly. Let's get it out of the way." Feng Jian was looking for a ninjutsu that allowed long-distance communication. The Yamanaka family didn't have one, but this ninjutsu was indeed very suitable for the Yamanaka family. If it was anyone else, the Yamanaka family would have gotten this idea for free, but the one who came up with the idea was Guja's grandson, Feng Jian. Then we can't just get it for free, we have to treat it formally. It's a good opportunity to build some relationships. They are all from the 3 families of Ino, Shika, and Jo, who hasn't been led on a mission by the old man. This is a relationship that has been built up over many years, and this time there is something creative, so the invitation was sent out. How people get along with each other, this is, the pattern of their generation is so big, but the pattern of the younger generation like Ino has to be maintained for them. Kazama can come up with such a good ninjutsu idea, plus the old man Kasuke, it's worth making friends with him. So that's it. It's just a child's idea. It's not worth making a fuss about. Old man Guji smiled and accepted the praise for his grandson. Of course, the idea is there. Why didn't our Yamanaka clan think of it? This is the gap. After saying that, he turned his gaze to Kazama. Your idea is very good, but the Yamanaka clan has not yet been able to create a similar ninjutsu. However, since you came up with the idea, our Yamanaka clan can share this ninjutsu with you. How about it? Wow, Yamanaka Hiroji invested a lot of money, not only providing a development team, but also sharing the results. Really? Thank you for your generosity, Uncle Yamanaka. Feng Jian immediately stood up and thanked him in his heart. Old man Guja saw it very clearly and knew that it was Yamanaka Inoichi who was trying to win over Kazama. The old man did not object because the Yamanaka family had a good reputation. Moreover, when a ninja went to the battlefield, one more person to take care of him, or even just one more word, could be the key to saving a life. Now that he had been won over by the three clans, wouldn't Kazama's future path as a ninja be easier? This was a good thing. After talking for a while and confirming that nothing was wrong, the grandfather and grandson got up and said goodbye. Take Ino with you to play more when you have time, Ino's mother said to Kazama gently. Kazama was very pleased with the gentle words, and nodded in agreement repeatedly. His silly look made Mrs. Yamanaka laugh with her hands covering her mouth. It was not a bad thing to applaud the Yamanaka family, but the problem of Kazama's team had not been solved, and it seemed unlikely that it would be solved in a short time. In desperation, Kazama had to choose a backup plan. Radio, yes, it is the radio that the 7th team in the original work brought when they were carrying out the cat-catching mission. It can make unlimited calls within a short distance. The disadvantage is that it is not waterproof and has a limited distance. For now, it can meet the needs temporarily. The technological capabilities of the Naruto world are obviously distorted. Radios, computers, and the like are all available, but people still use horse-drawn carriages and horses to travel. Ninjas rely entirely on their own two legs, and there are no bicycles. He once again spent a huge amount of money to buy a high-end radio. After being bombarded with advantages such as the waiter's certain degree of leniency, drop-proof, doubled communication distance, less interference, etc., Feng Jian's wallet was completely empty. The money was earned by Kazama with Naruto. Although he earned more than Naruto, his pockets were often empty. Naruto earned less, but his wallet was never empty. He basically had no need for money. There was no rent, no loans, no consumption. Apart from buying some instant noodles, milk, and other daily necessities, Naruto's expenses were pitifully small, and he would come to the treehouse from time to time to supplement his income. Therefore, Naruto's subsidies plus the money he earned made him much richer than Fukuma, and there was no room for argument. Make money, when there is no money, Feng Jian is going crazy. He has no money to buy the tactical vests that the three brothers and sisters of Grey Wolf value, and he has been wowed for a long time, and the two conspicuous bags, Yataro and Clawtaro, deliberately show their iron claws and small crossbows in front of the three wolves. How can this be tolerated? Feng Jian spent the whole day in wow. There is no other way, just make money. Report location. Feng Jian squatted on the treetop, covered himself with a piece of camouflage cloth, and sent instructions through the radio at his ear. At 1 o'clock, we will pass point 10 in 3 seconds. Kai Bataro's voice. Awoo! The prey has arrived. Grey Wolf reminded. Awoo! Red Wolf reminded to pay attention to hiding because the prey's fighting power was too strong. Awoo! Black Wolf ordered pig ears, which are chewy. OMOM Clawtaro reminded that the trap was ready because the prey had passed by. Zaputro, be careful to hide and don't be seen by the wild boar. Grey Wolf will be responsible for luring the prey to location 3. Everyone else will gather at location. Feng Jian gave the order. There was a burst of noise on the radio, and it was confirmed that it was everyone's answer. At the location number 3 mentioned by Kazama, Taro wiped the non-existent beads of sweat from his head and sat down on the treetop, a little out of breath. Under the tree was a pit he had just dug, which was filled with wooden thorns as long as calves and as thick as eggs. On top was a thin layer of khaki cloth, covering the entire pit. In order to hide the traces, he also sprinkled some leaves on it. It was perfect. Ever since he learned how to escape underground, digging holes has been his job. He wanted to squat on the treetops and watch the wind like Kai batter, but unfortunately he couldn't do that. His body was too heavy and the treetops were too high to support him. Besides, he was also able to escape underground. Did he have to dig the ground just because he could escape underground? His nails were blunted, and he couldn't bear to use his iron claws to dig the ground. He had to use his claws, at least they could grow out. If there is really no other choice, he can only develop a new earth escape technique. He has come up with a new idea. He can directly use chakra to control the soil to separate and form a pit. The name of the technique is called earth escape. Pit.